Okay.
This was emailed, but in case you forgot, vehicle reference.
Okay.
Thanks. Hey, Robert, how you doing today?
You may or may not need that since it's emailed, but sometimes it's nice to have it right in front of you,
Sure.
especially when you're.
And since you're such a nice,
And then that's,
thank you.
it's not hard to look at the screen and.
I had the size font that's in, I can tell you that.
Six, so we have, yeah, six, we have to only have to have five.
Okay.
Oh, we can't, we got six, so we got a quorum, so, yeah. Yeah. All we need is six, 6 out of 9. Or 10, yeah. Okay, well, we're ready to start. Good evening. Welcome to the December 2021, December 21st, get this microphone out of the way, 2022 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. At this time, I would request that everyone please turn off or mute all electronic devices. And also at this time, I would ask each one of you to please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Applications for conditional use permit requests and rezoning requests will be heard during tonight's meeting, and the commission will vote on these applications and make a recommendation to the county council. The applications will then be scheduled to be introduced before the county council at the Monday, January the 9th, 2023 county council meeting. Public comment for conditional use permit requests will be taken during tonight's meeting and at the council meeting on Monday, January the 9th, 2023. Public comment on conditional use permit applications will not be taken at any meeting of the county council held thereafter. The following documents are introduced as a matter of record for this evening's public hearing and regular meetings of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Those documents are the Unified Development Ordinance of St. Charles County, including zoning maps, and the year 2030 Master Plan for St. Charles County, which includes the year 2030 Future Land Use Plan map. I see that we have a quorum. Is there a motion to open the meeting?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, sign aye.
Aye.
Okay. We'll get started. Before we get to the agenda, I'll explain a little bit how our meeting works. I will start by reading into the record the application. Then we will have a report from staff. And then members of the commission may or may not have questions for the staff. Then we will ask the applicant to come forward and present their application, whatever that may be. Okay. At that time, members of the commission may or may not have questions of the applicant. Okay. Then we will open up the public hearing. Anyone here wishing to speak regarding the application can come forward and speak. We are a hearing of record, so when you do come forward, there's two things that we need. A little card. They're down here in the corner of the table. If you're going to speak, please fill out one of these cards. Okay. This way, we ensure that we get your name correct in our minutes. The other thing, if you come to speak, since we are a hearing of record, I have to swear you in. Okay. The other thing with our public hearing, we don't have that large a crowd this evening, but we want to give everyone an opportunity to speak. You're limited to 3 minutes. And once we've had 2 or 3 people talk about the same thing, I may ask that the council understands its noise, or its traffic, or its lack of utilities, et cetera, okay? That unless you have something different, we understand those concerns, okay? So that happens every now and then, okay? Once the public hearing is closed, then we'll take no more comments from the audience regarding that application, and then we will ask the applicant to come back and address any concerns that may have come up during the public hearing, and see what the applicant has to say regarding those concerns that came out of the public hearing. Okay. Then the commission will take that application. We may have questions for the applicant. Again, we may have questions for staff, and then we will vote on that application. Okay, so that's a brief rundown of how this meeting works. Okay. Okay. First thing on our agenda is conditional use permit request, application number CUP 22-08. The property owner is KAG 144 LLC. The applicant is Kelly McHoney, manager for KAG 114 LLC. The property zoning is A, agricultural district with floodway fringe overlay. Conditional use request, first is a campground, a commercial farm stand, rural recreational activity, building structures or open spaces for conducting weddings and or other private parties. The parcel size is approximately 78 acres. The location is on the west side of Becker-Joling Road, approximately 4,900 feet north of Finley Osage Creek Road, located in Council District 2. Staff.
I'd like to provide just an overview for this because I think it's covered fairly thoroughly in the staff report, and I also know that the applicant's attorney is here and is likely to make a presentation. So I thought if I could characterize the application. This is an application for 4 different conditional use permits, so I would ask that there be a vote on each separately for the record. The location, again, is Becker-Joling Road, and if you're not familiar with that, I think it's about 8 miles west of unincorporated Defiance. So it's pretty remote, as I would characterize it, in southwestern part of St. Charles County. There's 78 acres involved in this application on 2 tracks. And although there's 4 conditional use permit applications, which sounds like a lot of activity, when you get into the details, it's actually, I would kind of characterize as nested under the campground. What I mean by that is there's a campground, we'll talk about that in a moment. But these other conditional uses, the way I would characterize it, it's kind of in service of the campground. For instance, the building structures or open spaces for conducting weddings. That's pretty much for people who are at the campground, and if they want to hold an event, there would be, I'll talk about that more in just a second. The campground itself is a little different in a traditional campground. It used to be that St. Charles campgrounds were limited to tents, recreational vehicles, camping trailers, sleeping on the open ground. But recently, following a recognition that people's ideas of what camping entails has changed over the years. For instance, if you go to a KOA campground, you might see a camping cabin. St. Charles County has a park that has camping cabins that are what I would call primitive. They don't have any sort of equipment. There's no bathroom, kitchen, anything like that. It's just no heating or cooling. It's just shelter. So what's being proposed here today is a campground that includes 7 structures for shelter. They do propose that each one would have a toilet, but no kitchen, and they're almost like a half-size bedroom, almost. Well, like maybe a full-size bedroom. But it's basically shelter to get out, out of the elements. And the purpose is to provide shelter for people who are outdoor recreation activities on the property. There's a really wonderful lake that's currently on the property, and so that's part of the rural recreational activity, which is the third conditional use permit. They're envisioning that people camping there would use the lake for water sports, for instance, and so they wanted to cover that under the rural recreational activity. The commercial farm stand that they're proposing, the way it's described, is more, again, in service to campers. Commercial farm stand, by county's definition, you have to be growing something on site. They do have farm plots. And if you're growing something on site or producing it, you can have a commercial farm stand that includes products from the site augmented by outside provisions, I'll call them. So maybe this campground would have, seasonally, that would have products grown from the site, but also provisions for the campers as well. To get back to the building structure or open spaces for conducting weddings or other private parties, the applicants themselves are proposing that there be no more than 4 of those a year, and I think it's limited to, I can't remember if it's 30 or 35 individuals. 35, is that right? Okay. So you'll see in terms of the scale and the number of activities, it's quite limited in terms of what we'll often see for, it's not intended to be, as they describe it, it's not intended to be a standalone wedding venue that's going to be marketed to outside parties. It's really, again, in service of the campground as it's been described by the applicants. County staff has reviewed each of the 4 conditional use permits in terms of the conditional use permits criteria that's outlined in the staff memorandum. And county staff would recommend approval with conditions for each of the 4 proposed conditional use permits. And those conditions are again provided in your staff report.
Any questions for staff?
I just have a problem because I can't connect to the internet.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. We'll have someone help you here. Great, there's only one missing here. While we're waiting, I would also note that we received a number of communications on this application, including 8 communications in favor and 12 against. Those have been shared with Planning and Zoning Commission and are all part of the record.
Anyone else have a question for staff at this time?
I got it from there. Thank you so much.
Good. Okay.
Okay, you good to go?
I'm good.
Okay.
Good.
At this time, we'll ask the applicant to come forward.
I've got copies of the presentation. Would you like me to wait until I?
They don't let Brad go.
Thank you. It's okay.
Well, don't worry about it, yeah.
Don't worry.
Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth during these proceedings or on the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Lisa Johnson, I'm an attorney with Amundsen Davis, and it's at 120 South Central, St. Louis.
Go ahead, Ms. Johnson.
Okay. I'm going to get this presentation started first. There we go. Okay. The name of the project is Broadview Valley, and it's located on Becker-Jarling Road, as stated by the staff. Okay, hang on. That didn't work. There we go. Okay. As stated, there's 4 separate conditional uses that are being requested for campground, rural recreational activities, a farm stand, and a commercial farm stand, and for an event location at the site. The site location is shown on the aerial that you can see. There is a small developed area where there is a home where the applicant resides, and a barn and shed and 2 existing cabins. So that's located on the area where you can see there is some clearing, and the rest of the property is all wooded, pretty heavily wooded. And you can see that the area where the homes are quite a distance from the borders of this property. Again, this is another aerial showing surrounding properties where other homes may be located, that there are wooded areas between those homes and the borders of the property. And then you can see in the very center where there is some construction, and that is the focus of where these uses are going to be requested. And you can also see the large lake on that aerial. Currently on the site, these are photos from the property. That watermelon, I suppose, is from one of the gardens on the property. But this is the home where the applicant resides on the upper left. The covered bridge at the entrance, which is a ways back from Becker-Jarling Road. It isn't immediately on the road. There's actually, you can see on the top right, there's a separate roadway where you can avoid the bridge. I think it maybe run into a creek on some occasions, but usually you can do that. But the point is, it's back from the road. That covered bridge is not right up against the road. The barn is existing. That's where the event use is planned. That's already constructed on the property. And then you can see the layout there where the lake is, the barn, and the home. And then the cabins that are being proposed, the new cabins, are behind that area. And you'll see a diagram where those are nestled in the woods. They are not near the borders of the property at all. These are existing cabins on the property. These are just photos at this point. I'll discuss those later. And this is the natural area of the site, and you can see that entrance to the road on the bottom right. This is the lake, some uses that the owner has made of the lake, and the current zoning for the property is agricultural. So that's the zoning under conditional uses for agricultural districts. They do include campgrounds, commercial farm stands, rural recreational activity, and then building structures or open spaces for conducting weddings and wedding receptions. Those are all conditional uses that may be permitted. Number 1, the first use is for the campground. This is not a typical campground. There was some confusion. We held a meeting at the site with neighbors, and also all of those who had filed opposition letters had been invited to come and ask questions so that we could talk to them about it. There was some confusion about whether this was going to be a traditional campground. They were asking about, well, what about RVs? Well, there's not going to be RVs there. The only campground that we're asking for is the use of these cabins, and we were trying to get that cabin use permitted. The existing cabins are located, the 2 on the right are what's already there. These are actual photos of the site. The The top is going to be used as a reading library. That's not going to be used for sleeping at all. It's very small. And there's an existing cabin that has a maximum of 4 guests, and that's the one on the bottom right. And just to give you some idea of the location of that, on the left side, you can see where the new proposed cabins are. Those are the red squares. There are 5 cabins, and that path is not going to be a roadway. That's going to be something that maybe a golf cart or something small could go down there, maybe take someone's luggage, but not, that's not going to be a paved roadway, and it's going to be a walking path or a trail down through the woods. They're going to clear as few trees on the site as possible for these uses. And so you can see the existing cabins, which are, the one is the green on the top, and then the yellow are the orange is a barn, and below that is a shed, and then you can see where the home is there. So you can see how tightly these are nestled in the center of the property. The new cabins, again, are the ones in red, and you can see on the left side, that is the distance from the road. The gray on the right is Becker-Gerling Road, and that path goes all the way back. You can see it's a fairly large home in the green, and that's how far back from the road it is. So it would not be visible, especially the cabins, which are going to be behind that, would not be visible from any neighboring property or from the road. I should back up. And the cabins will be constructed in a manner that is aesthetically pleasing and fits in with the natural setting. They aren't going to be something that doesn't fit in. Even if you could see them from the road, they would fit in. And these are design inspirations. These are not necessarily what she's going to build, but this is an idea of something that might be planned. They are going to be small. They have to fit within the restrictions that are part of the request. But it will be nice. For example, you can see on the left side, that's not a full kitchen. It's a little sort of dorm fridge and a sink. There would be one sink that would service the small bathroom and the kitchen area. There would, such as it is, not necessarily a kitchen, but just, refrigerator for drinks and things like that. So as far as this CUP requirements for the cabin, it would not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare. The use is very limited. They're only requesting a maximum of the number of people that could sleep in the 5 cabins, which is 4 apiece, and then in the existing cabin. It would not be injurious to the use or enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity. The conditional uses, the applicant lives on site. She's not going to allow people to just come and stay there without her presence. And they are just at a distance from the road, so they're not going to damage property that are even adjoining this piece of property. It would not substantially diminish or impair the property values. The abutting property homes are buffered with an abundance of trees, and they would not be affected by the use. The number of people coming in and out would be small, and because these are, as Mr. Myers said, nestled uses, these people that are coming for the event use would be staying there. They're not planning to have people coming in and out. It's all supposed to fit together for the use of the property with these 4 uses. And it would not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding property for their uses. It really wouldn't affect that at all, to the extent that it would promote anything similar, but it really won't affect it at all. I also wanted to speak briefly about the definitions of cabin that have changed recently in the new ordinance amendment, and because it affects the size that's permitted for these cabins. They are going to be small. Campgrounds permit cottages, or they include cottages of up to 200 square feet, and cabins. Cottages, the definition of cottages in the code provides for up to 350 square feet, but that's not what's going to be allowed here, because it's going to be for the purpose of a campground, which limits that size to only 200 square feet. So cottages are, even though cottages are 350 square feet, are not going to be that large here. They can only be 200 square feet. The definition of camping, this clearly fits within that definition. It is the use of open land for travel, recreation, and vacation, which includes shelter or sites designed and used for temporary occupancy. And that's exactly what we're asking for here on the camp use. Camping cabins must be limited to 120 square feet. So unlike the cottages, which could be 200 square feet, a cabin can only be 120 square feet. So these will be small structures. The second use that we're talking about or requesting,
Before you move on,
sorry,
if this is a covered bridge, this green,
yes,
what is this red building?
let me go to mine.
Because you show the 5 proposed cabins over here in red, and then this is another, I would
me
assume
find the
another
one.
new building.
Okay, let me see. Okay, the red, are you talking about the red one?
Yeah, right here.
I believe that that is, would you like to swear the applicant in? She can answer that.
You solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Kelly McConey at 3835 Becker Jorling Road,
Okay.
Augusta, 63332.
Thank you. Okay, so,
And
Should I stay here?
yes, I believe this is the, just don't want to get it wrong.
No, so that is a new barn that we are having built for our own, the barny stuff that would come from the barn that we currently have. So right now, we're using the barn as a barn, and what we want to
okay.
do is have our own barn to put the barny things.
okay.
I would have gotten that wrong.
Pardon my own vocabulary. Should I stay here or?
You can,
If they have
you're
questions.
sworn in, so if we need you, you can come
Yeah.
back without any trouble. Okay, go ahead, John.
Okay, the second use we're requesting is for on-site rural recreational activity. This would be for the purpose of allowing those staying at the cabins to use the lake. We heard about water sports or water activity earlier. This would not include any motorized boats or anything. This would only be kayaks and non-motorized water, so there wouldn't even be noise from water.
What is the acreage of the lake?
3 or 2?
It's between 3 and 4.
Oh, 3 and 4 acres, between 3 and 4 acres. It's large. So the activities would include kayaking, fishing, hiking, walking trails, gardening in the garden plots, and things like pumpkin picking on site. The CUP requirements, the recreational activities would not affect and would certainly not cause danger, health, or safety issues for the neighbors. They wouldn't be injurious to the use or enjoyment of those properties because they are going to be quiet. They would not affect neighboring properties. They're going to be on site in the center of the property. They would not substantially diminish property values. These are activities that would occur on this property anyway. With a limited number of people, this isn't going to diminish property values, and it would not impede the orderly development of other properties in any way. The third use we're requesting is, again, this is something that's just kind of going along for the experience that these people could have on the site. It's for a commercial farm stand, and the applicant is wanting to partner with local vendors to bring produce that's locally grown, either from her site and or soaps, like local type craft things that she might sell there on site to those people who are staying there. There are existing garden plots, which you can see are located. You can see the covered bridge there, which is marked B on the green, and then the circled area is where there's existing garden plots, and they are screened from the road as well. These are the types of produce that would be available there. And this is an example of the types of suppliers that are people that she's approached in an effort to try to bring some of that on if this is granted. Ethically farmed produce, baked goods, honey, beeswax candles, and these are different things that are locally available that she could help promote. Again, this would not be detrimental or danger to the public safety. It's going to be something that's primarily serving just the people that are staying there. She's not going to be advertising it off-site as something where people would come to buy things at this stand. It's going to be servicing people that are there primarily. It would not be injurious to the use or enjoyment of their property. It would not involve a lot of people coming in and off-site. It's just not going to create any danger for anyone. Again, it would not diminish or impair property values, and it would not cause any effect on the development of neighboring properties in conjunction with their uses. Finally, the event space. This is something that is going to be limited as provided in the application. This is the barn that is already located on the site. It's directly across from the home where the applicant resides, which you can see on the upper right photo. This is something that's right there. She's not going to allow something that is noisy and causing problems for the neighbors, because it would cause more problems for her located right there. The limitations that we are requesting are that the events take place in that barn that is already located there, and the events are limited to 35 guests. This would include, if, for example, there was a wedding, that would include the wedding party. Anyone who comes, the entire event would be limited to 35 guests. No more would be able to come on site for that event. So it's very, very small for weddings or events. The property would not be advertised as a wedding venue, so it would not bring additional weddings in. The number of weddings allowed to occur would only be 4 annually. They must occur on Friday or Saturday, and they must conclude by 10 p.m. So these are small events. They're not running late into the evening. There are no pyrotechnic activities or fireworks permitted, and no amplified noise. So they're not even going to have music loud on the site. Again, we could go through the same 4 CUP requirements, but I think I've explained, the situation where it's not going to cause detriment or impair the neighboring properties. Finally, this is just a photo of the site, which you've seen a small version of. All these activities are right in the center of the property. They're far from the back side of the property, which would be, I suppose, the south or west. And there's woods between this area and the border behind the barn. The cabins are small. They'd be nestled in there. And there is a substantial distance, I believe 900 feet, between where the cabins are going to be located and the entrance at Becker-Drilling Road. So with the noise limitations, even on-site, it's really difficult to imagine that it would cause disruption outside of the property.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Utilities for these cabins.
They would be required to meet any building code requirements. They will be, they will be requesting permits, getting permits, meeting any requirements for that. There would be a single septic on site. We've looked into that. It is going to be a minimal amount that is not going to require additional, wouldn't require us to go to Missouri Department of Natural Resources or anything. It's going to be, we've actually spoken with the county, and they've preliminarily looked at it and told us what kind of septic could service all of them. There would not be multiple septic.
And speaking to the electricity piece of this, it would be similar to an RV. So like we have a 30 amp RV, it could go up to 50 amps is about what we're learning. It would be the requirements for the electric.
But there's electrical service on the property.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
When we've added, because we had to, last year and 0 degrees, luckily tomorrow we will have electricity, but we had to improve that last year.
And water, is it through a well or through a water district?
Well,
Farm stand, so I live in the neighborhood, if I lived in the neighborhood, and knew you had the farm stand, even though I wasn't staying on your property, could I still come and purchase?
I will open this to my neighbors. Already my brother is our caretaker, and we already started our gardens, and pretty much our neighbors benefited from our pumpkins, our lemon cucumbers or, all sorts of things. We've just been giving it to people, but, which is probably what will happen for our neighbors, frankly. This is primarily for our guests that are on site as far as selling it. And I've got one of my neighbors here, her parents sell maple syrup, so I'm really wanting to have that local flair where people come and they know they're getting something from right here. Not here, but you know what I mean, where I am.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now open the public hearing for CUP 22-08 regarding conditional use permit request for the property located on the west side of Becker-Cherling Road, approximately 4,900 feet north of Femi, Osage Creek Road, and the conditional uses are a campground, a commercial farm stand, rural recreational activity, and building structures or open spaces for conducting weddings and/or other private events. Anyone wishing to speak in the public hearing? You solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or under the pains and penalty of perjury.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Brianne Veith, 4105 Becker-Gerling Road, Augusta.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm a neighbor of Kelly and Doug, and I just wanted to start off with saying I'm very supportive of what they're doing. I have always been a very advocate outdoors woman, all for deer hunting, turkey hunting, fishing, everything that has to do with outdoors, I'm doing it. And I know at first, like, you look at this and it can be scary because all around us seems like everybody's developing, removing the trees, destroying out, everything around us. But what I think Kelly's doing is like not going to be very detrimental to the land. And just in the short time that I've known them, Kelly is not from she doesn't know the outdoors like I do, but she's always willing to learn. She's very respectful of everything that we do, and she is all for being a part of our community and making sure that she's not stepping on anybody's toes. And when it comes to I've heard, because they had a meeting at their house on site, and there was a lot of talk about traffic, and I just want to say we are close to wine country, and all of Hoffman's Winers and everything. And I know that that brings in a lot of traffic, and that any of the traffic that could be going on down there, I think will be very minimal, that nobody will even know, because it seems like there's a lot of Sunday drivers that go through there that coming from the Augusta wineries and stuff like that. So any traffic, I just don't think will be an issue for this. And in regards to the noise and everything, we live right across the hill. The land that I'm allowed to hunt actually borders her land, and I don't think that will mess with me in any way. What she has going on will not be noticed. If she would have done this by herself without telling anybody, I don't think anybody would even knew it was going on. So
Thank you.
I am supportive for her, so that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Aaron Gross, number 10 Hennebury Hills Lane, Troy, Missouri.
Go ahead, sir.
63379. Well, man, it's hard to follow everybody else, but I'm Kelly's brother, and they employ me there on the property. I'm her caretaker, and it's just, I'm supportive, obviously, but Kelly and I have spent a lot of time and energy just because of where our hearts are. We've gone to all the neighbors. We go and introduce ourselves, and not just because of this project, but we own some property up in northern Missouri, and I thought it was very important to go around and meet my neighbors. See who your neighbors are, and what they're all about, and they get to meet you, and vice versa. So I recommended to Kelly that we do that, and we did. And through this process, we've gotten to know a lot of people. And then, since then, we've visited them about the project. You know, we just trying to get to know these people. And, man, they're just a bunch of great people. Everybody that borders Kelly's property, just a lot of them have lived there most of their lives. And just wonderful. We've gotten a lot of wonderful support. Bill and Wilma to the north, kind of north end, and then we got Janet, we got the Jurlings, we've got Don. I mean, people that have lived there forever, and they're just wonderful people, and we have their support. And I think a lot of the people that don't support her are people in outlying areas that I don't know why they wouldn't support her, but I'm just here to say that the people that really matter to us, not to say that they don't, other people that live in New Melody don't matter, but our friends that we've made are really supportive, and it's wonderful to see their love and attention to this. We really appreciate it. But again, it's very small. I'm a hunter myself, outdoorsman, and I respect the people that border us, and I've encouraging Kelly, listen, if there's going to be trail walking, man, September 1st, bow season starts, you know, and then November 12th, rifle season starts. If anybody's going to be out in the woods, they got to have orange vests on, you know. All these details are very important, especially to an outdoorsman. And so I wanted to speak to the size, if you don't mind, the size of those cabins. I mean, you're talking 20 by 10. It's very, very tiny. And to say that 4 people could stay in there would be a huge stretch. I'd say two people. I've been in construction for a long time, and so the only way to get 4 people would be to have a 2-story house, and that's not the plan at all. So I really don't know what else to say, but I'm very proud of my sister. It's not like they're trying to do this to make a bunch of money. It's just a dream of hers that she's had for a long time. And just pretty much just a hobby, something that she would like to do for a long time, not with any ideas of expanding, but just to keep it small and quaint. And I'm just real proud of her. So anyway, that's it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Counselor O'Brien. We don't have to have a public hearing on each one of these uses, do we?
Have to have a vote on each one.
We have to vote on,
Put
but
them all together.
we can address all of them in this one public
When it
hearing.
goes before council, we're gonna have to do a separate one for each one, unfortunately. Yeah, but we can kind of keep it all together.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak regarding this CUP? Come on up. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Tom Smallwood. My address is 57 Lake Forest Drive, St. Louis, Missouri, 63117. I'm an attorney with Stinson LLP in Clayton at 7700 Forsyth Boulevard. I represent True Femme Osage Properties, LLC, an owner of approximately 432 acres just east of the subject property that's being reviewed for this application. We'd like to voice our opposition to this. I won't dig into all the reasons that we laid out. I'll focus first on the fact that we feel like it doesn't follow the St. Charles County future land use plans under the Envision 2030 master plan. If you look in the region, we don't see any agricultural tourism or commercial uses zoning planned anywhere in the vicinity of the applicant's property. And so we feel like this is a deviation from, the master plan as it sits. Secondly, I guess until November 18th, we also didn't think the cabin use fit within campground, but that having been amended, I guess that's some water under the bridge. The staff has done a nice job, frankly, of imposing some restrictions. If the council has gone to the effort to amend the code to accommodate this use, we assume it's probably going forward. But we would like to see some additional restrictions placed on the use. I did put them in writing in a letter to staff that's included in our packet. The limitations on time and noise and numbers of attendees are welcome, but would like to see some additional just restrictions on things like exterior lighting, on what the signage would look like, buffers back from Becker-Droling Road to ensure that campground revelry doesn't get rowdy and loud and spill out over into the street. Some assurances that all parking will occur off the road, and some assurances that construction activities during all improvements being done on the property would only be done during normal business hours rather than too early or too late, and certainly not on weekends.
Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? You solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or in the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Scott Horace, 3546 Becker-Droling, Forestdale, Missouri.
Go ahead, sir.
So it's obviously looks like a beautiful proposition, but it's unfortunately proposed in the wrong area. I obviously don't support the proposal or the approval of the conditional use permits. If you saw on the maps the way that the roads are laid out, they're very curvy, they're very hilly. There's already accidents that happen out there. I live less than a mile away. I don't like the characterization that the opposition comes from people that live in New Melle that are 8 or 10 miles away. That's not the case. I also don't know if we can speak for our neighbors or not. I know they're not all here to represent themselves, but I can guarantee that I've talked to many of my neighbors, and not a single one that I know on my street is in favor of this. And it's mostly because of the traffic. We see that the permit request has been carefully considered, but there's no way to guarantee that folks that are coming in and out of this facility will be sober. There's no way, there's a lot of things that we can say we will try to do, but there's no way to guarantee that. And all it takes is one additional person driving up and down that road that's very hilly and very curvy, and if it runs over one of the residents, there's no going back on that. So I would strongly consider or suggest that you guys consider voting against this. It just doesn't fit in, and in general, the residents that are close by. And if it helps for the next January 9th meeting, I'm more than happy to get some sort of legal representation from them as well, to make sure that their voices are heard as well. Obviously, there's a large majority that have already sent information in to express that they're against the approval of the permits. And even yourself, Mr. Ellis, asked about the farm stand. There's no way that, to control, it's going to be open to the public, right? There's the intended use might be for the people that are there, but if somebody from the public drives out, and as soon as word gets out and it gets to be an established area, people like that maple syrup could be the best in the state, right? And everybody's going to be driving there to get it, and then that's more people going up and down the street in front of our house. So respectfully ask that all of you protect the residents that live close to this area, and do not approve the conditional use permit.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or in the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
It is Shelley Horace, 3546 Becker-Droling Road. We also own the home at 3550 Becker-Droling Road. I just want to say I'm in opposition of it. I don't think it fits with the area. Just like my husband said, I just think it's a great idea somewhere, but not where we're at. I know that they think that there's not going to be much of a traffic consideration, but I believe they're underestimating that. And I think if they wanted to put something that's possibly expansive later too, after this first part gets passed, I mean, there's nothing to stop it from expanding later. I just think they should have picked some roads that maybe can handle more traffic. We're on a very small road, curvy, hilly, and we all use our streets to walk, run. All of our residents there have lived out there, many for a long time, and it's several generations and families that have houses along that street. And people that are drinking from the events going through, it's just, could be a danger to residents using the street. We also did attend their meeting, and it's nothing personal.
Ma'am,
It's
you-
nothing personal, it's
speak
just a
up here.
business deal. We were not really able to be assured that they weren't gonna apply for liquor licenses or anything like that for their events, so it's a big concern for residents along our street, having more people driving that could be impaired. So,
Yeah,
thank you.
I will, for the audience's education, assuming we pass this evening, and we pass each one of these with restrictions, like the wedding, where there can be no more than 35 guests, that cannot be expanded unless it comes back to this board.
Okay.
So-
Even with
so any-
35 guests,
yeah.
that could be,
Any
30
rest-
cars coming
yeah.
in and 30 cars going out at the
Yeah,
end
I
of
doubt
the
that,
night, so.
but for everyone's sort of education, the restrictions that we would put in place, assuming this would pass, and restrictions we put in place, those cannot be expanded or changed by the applicant. They have to
Okay.
come back to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then has to go on to the county council. So,
Good to know.
so as long as everybody understands that part of it.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to speak? Evening, Mr. Denoff.
Good evening.
You solemnly swear or affirm that you tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dinoff. Mailing address is P.O. Box 1535 in O'Fallon, County Public Advocate. First of all, this is a large piece of property. It's on 78 acres, nestled in huge trees. Has a huge buffer, and I really want to point that out. It is a big buffer. If you look at the first map that was submitted by the applicant, I can't exactly, I don't know if they could pull that up in the back, but I can't measure to the adjoining structures, the distance, but it looks like it's a far distance. I disagree with another person who testified. I do feel that the 2030 master plan use and zoning plan, that this is a perfect fit. This is why the ordinance was changed. It was to attract low-impact issues like this on the community and the county as a whole, especially the wine agricultural district. The CUPs for all four are the place by state law in our county code of ordinances, along with the county charter, to add restrictions and protections to protect all property owners adjoining and within a certain radius of this facility. With the campground, I see in there that it's written a condition, and I ask you to approve it, that no more than 30 guests be allowed for overnight stay. On the event venue, I ask that you stick to the 35 maximum individuals and the 4 events per year. I think that that's very low impact and non-intrusive. I ask that you stick to the condition for the recreation vehicles and campers being prohibited, that no fireworks are to be used as a condition, the loud acoustical noise, music, that not be allowed to happen. But I really want this commission to address the parking issue. I think that there needs to be a parking control provision, because like what was previously testified, if this facility takes off, where are you going to park the 30 guests? Let's say they bring 12 cars. So that's one issue. And then if the stand takes off and you have a lot of influx and egress and ingress, where are people going to be parking along the side of the road for the public safety, health, and welfare? So I think that's really imperative that this commission address the parking. And then the final issue that I'd like to see you address, which is not addressed in any of the 4 recommendations for the CUP by staff, is sewer disposal. I heard from the applicant that it's going to be very minimal, but we really need to drill that down and make sure, again, that the health, safety, and welfare is being protected. I like these concepts and the recreational opportunity. This will support our tourism and our economic development endeavors. It's a low-key application for all 4 conditional use permits. As it's presented on its face, it looks and seems to be a classy run operation. If you look at the pictures of the house and the barns, the property is well kept, well maintained. It's looks like it's very well constructed. The applicant seems to have applied a application to be a great steward of the environment that's non-intrusive. And I look at this as a win-win on all 4 conditional use permits, as they're a very minimal impact of what could go in with a subdivision or other type campground opportunities. For those reasons, I ask that the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously approve a affirmative recommendation to the County Council on January 9th. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? You solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or in the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Tyler Horace, 3568 Becker Gerling, Forest Hill, Missouri.
Go ahead, sir.
So I'd like to echo the concern of traffic on the roads. I know you guys have the presentation that has a map on it. If you do look at that map, there is a really tight hairpin turn on one of the accesses to the property. The other access to the property, you have to cross a 1-lane bridge to get there, a little bit farther down Femi Osage Creek Road. That 1-lane bridge is between Defiance and Augusta, and where the Hoffman area is going to be taking place and all the publicity from that. We were told at the meeting at the applicant's house that these 5-6 cabins would be listed on Airbnb. We don't believe that this is going to be a 4-week only wedding thing. They're restricted to 4 weddings a year, but this will be an active thing year-round. There will be people staying there. There will be people in and out all the time, and it will increase the traffic on the road. Residents out there use the road for exercise, walking dogs, all that kind of stuff. Traffic is the main concern. And then, like I said, having the Hoffman and the wineries and people staying there, random people that we don't know, coming, crossing the 1-lane bridge, drinking, driving, that kind of thing. Don't really want it in the area. The other concern is with regard to that bridge that they have at the entrance. That is a creek, and to get fire EMS across that in a rainstorm is sometimes not possible. So that needs to be considered too, when we've got 5 cabins full of people that may or may not need medical care, safety, first responder stuff. So I'd ask that that be considered too.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else? Anyone else wishing to speak regarding CUP 22-08? Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing and ask the applicant to come back. Anyone have any questions for the applicant?
So you said this was 70 acres, is that correct?
78 approximately.
Okay. So in an agricultural area, if, for example, they wanted to build homes, they would need to have 1 per 5 acres. So that would be 15 homes that would be allowed to be built.
That's correct.
Okay, so instead of 15 homes, you're wanting to build 5 small cabins that can hold 2 to 4 people apiece, and then the 1 home. So you have 6 homes as opposed to the 15 that would already be allowed.
That's correct. I wouldn't really characterize the cabins as a home, however, because it wouldn't be serviceable for residing there at all.
So just wanted to clarify.
Thank you.
The traffic issue, if you've got 6 homes as opposed to 15 homes.
That's right.
That seems like it would be a lot less traffic
That's true, and
than
in
if
fact.
it were a subdivision, for example.
In fact, when she was trying to decide how to do this project, it was suggested that she could subdivide it and build the cabins on separate parcels, which she could certainly have applied to do. And she did not want to divide the property. She did not want to do that to this. She didn't want to destroy the natural setting. So that's absolutely correct.
Is there other entrances and exits to the property that if there were to the gentleman's point, an emergency, whether there was a fire, needed an ambulance, that type of thing, where they could easily get in and out to the property?
There's one.
Come forward. You're still sworn in.
There is the one entrance from Becker Drilling right now, and the, what he was, sorry, I don't remember your name.
That's okay.
What he was referring to is, we have the covered bridge, and then we have the side entrance, which, it's a dry creek, so it's runoff. So when we have rain, so far, we've never really had anything that I recall that was impassable in the 2 years we've been there. So that is where we are right now.
And you can also see from the photos of the covered bridge that it's a very well-maintained, sturdy, wide bridge. It would be passable.
But for a fire truck, they would have to go to the right.
Okay.
You know, a police car, you know, police vehicles, that sort of thing could get over the bridge. We would have to go around to the other side. And we would, yeah, I'll just answer your question.
Other issue, the availability of alcohol, spirits, wine, beer.
The applicant is not going to be providing, these are going to be available for the people that book the events to bring in what they bring in. She has recommended and said that her intention is to, if they do bring alcohol in, she's going to require that they obtain a shuttle if they go off-site, and she will recommend, she's talked to various shuttle providers.
This person here helps run a shuttle business, and we've been talking about partnering with them, and we've talked to car services. We're very, very serious about that. I'm adamantly opposed to drinking and driving, and I'm going to do positively everything in my power to prevent that from happening. I do believe that for the most part, when we get to the point where we can run small retreats, like my brother will make fun of me, but when I say bird watching, by the way, I am an outdoors person. I'm just a tree hugger, not a hunter. So it's a different way of looking at things, but I am very outdoorsy, and I very much care for nature. I very much care for all of my neighbors. I know that these neighbors are up the hill from me, and when we did our outreach, they were not part of that perimeter that we really concentrated on, but it is vitally important to me and to my husband and to my brother that we put everything in place to show that we respect our neighbors, and to keep them safe. I am one of those people that walks my dog on that road. I am the one I'm always on that road walking. So the last person on earth that wants that to be an unsafe place, and I'm not along with them, is me. So I take it very seriously. I mean I've already earned a lot of respect from a lot of my neighbors, and I intend to hopefully earn the respect, I hope to earn their trust. I didn't mean respect, I meant trust. Okay. So everything we've done, we've thought very seriously about every little thing. As far as alcohol, we take that very seriously. The idea is if an event comes in, like if a retreat person comes in and wants to have a little happy hour, for the most part, these people are going to be staying on our property anyway. But if for some reason they do a wine tour, they have to have a shuttle.
Okay. Robert, I have a question with regards to the farm stand. Even though they may be selling this just to the individuals staying on the property, they would need a business license?
Presumably, they would need a merchant's license in order to sell. Let me just throw in that any property that's zoned agricultural can have a non-commercial farm stand by right. Either there would be a temporary structure or open land of, I think, 500 square feet in the area or less, where you could sell produce from the property. So regardless of whether or not this is approved, they could have a non-commercial farm stand. So they're proposing a little higher level of farm stand than that. But to get back to your question, yeah, I think they would need a merchant's license for retail sales.
May I add to that? I knew about the fact that we were permitted to do the farm stand, but I understood that we could only sell our own things. I really am so excited about the idea of getting to sell local items. I think that's really special. But again, I'd like to reiterate that this is meant for people that are staying with us. My neighbors can have pumpkins. My neighbors can have our cucumbers, but when people come in, they can have an experience where they can buy some tomatoes for their tomato sandwich or whatever they're doing. That's the idea. That we're not trying to, we don't want to have a sign on the road to say, to invite people up. So pretty much it's going to be the people that are staying on our property.
The other issue that came up was parking.
Yep.
So where are we going to park the wedding party or if all the cabins are full?
Sure. If you take a look at the site plan that was provided, it provides for parking, including areas that would be accessible for handicap parking. And one of the conditions that the staff recommended is that the site plan be submitted and approved. And so that parking would be part of what the approval consisted of.
And it's close to the barn? The parking's close to the barn?
It's in various locations.
Yeah, you gotta go way. keep
There's
going.
a spot
Keep
in
scrolling.
front of the house, our house, that would need to be expanded.
There is no parking down by the cabins, however, it's not going to be cleared back for that.
The
It's
idea is
private
to,
house.
I'm sorry.
No, sure.
The idea is, again, going back to wanting to preserve
Keep going.
as much as we can of nature. We would like to shuttle people in with our side-by-side to their cabin. So rather than them having an opportunity to park right at their cabin, there will be spots in front of our house, which there already are some. Right now, we would just need to expand it a bit.
But it is shown on the site plan.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's already parking up the existing cabin for that spot.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, and I think, I'm not sure if this is for Robert or the applicant, but we're saying a maximum of 4 weddings or wedding receptions. How is that going to be controlled?
Mostly on a complaint basis.
Yeah, like everything else.
You know.
Okay. So they're not required a permit or anything like that?
No, there's, there wouldn't be a permit involved with that. There may be some details, like for instance, if something's being catered, they may or may not need, the caterer may or may not need a liquor license, just depending on what sort of accommodations they're gonna have. But it's mainly gonna be on a complaint basis. So if we receive a complaint, there's too many events, we'll start logging how many calls received, basically.
May I also speak to that?
Go ahead.
Mr. Cleary. I went through this process, and it's been a long, grueling process. And I just want to say that I did not come here to put 35 people on my maximum list. That's what I said. Nobody told me you need to have only 35 people. I said, we don't want more than 35 people. We don't want to have a big wedding on our property.
I understand
We are
that. I
living,
meant the number of
and I
events.
get that there's a concern of that, but I think it's important that people hear that I set that parameter. My husband and I want this as a kind of a retirement way to enjoy and have people come to us in a very, very intimate, special way. That includes enjoying nature, not throwing beer bottles in our
Sure.
lake.
Certainly, I understand that. I think just the requirement that was on there, just some explanation of what that's going to be.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Hearing none, thank you.
Can I make a few comments in response to the public statements?
Go ahead.
Okay, just a few. The statements made by Mr. Smallwood, again, I also believe it fits within the master plan, but his letter speaks about ag tourism, and that is not something that's not what's proposed here. He also mentioned that the cabin definition was changed. It was our opinion that we did meet the requirements before the definition was added. We had our hearing set, we were ready to go. We were going to be before this board in July, I believe, or June, and the county requested that we wait until after that definition was done so that the cabin definition could be clarified, because they thought that it was ambiguous or that it didn't describe it enough. But it was open-ended, and so we believe that we would have fit within that cabin definition or the campground definition. And so we didn't push the issue of coming to the hearing that was actually open. We voluntarily, waited. Another comment made was, and Kelly addressed this, that the staff imposed the restrictions, and he appreciated that the staff imposed the restrictions. Again, we came to, with this application, with these restrictions in place. This was what was proposed. She didn't propose some big event location. This was something that she came with, this idea of it being small. So she's not going to want to expand because she started out wanting something small, even if it could be expanded. And then the next speaker, I believe Mr. Horace, I didn't catch his last name. We respectfully understand that there is a lot going on out around these properties, so that there are some big venues going in out there. There's a lot of maybe drinking on the roads. This is entirely different from some things that are out there, and this application should not be judged based on what else is out there that people disapprove of. This is an entirely different proposal, and it should be judged based on its own merits. We spoke about the shuttles already in the farm stand, and let's see. There was a comment by Mr. Dienoff about the sewer disposal. I had spoken with the county personnel about the sewers or the septic system, and we were told that it was the amount for these cabins and the number of people was so minimal that it wouldn't cause an effect that would create a need for additional septic. It was not, we're not just saying that it's a small minimal amount that's going to be need to be taken care of. That's something we were told by the county when they were looking at the septic system, when we asked them, what are we going to need? And so that was told to us by the county.
Plus, I would like to add to that we are adamant about protecting our own property. So the last thing we want to do is pollute our own lake and our own land. So we're serious about wanting to make sure that we do it right.
And one more item is, in the interest of time, I won't show you a map that I've got which shows where the opponents' letters and where those in favor's letters were from. But if you take a look at those addresses, there are, you can take a look at where they are, and I understand that some people are in the vicinity. But if you take a look at where those in favor are, they are directly on this road. And some of the opponents, for the most part, they're either behind the woods if they are near, or there are some in Numeli, and they are not directly on this road. So,
Any other questions for the applicant? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll bring application CUP 2808 back to the commission for discussion. Yes, sir.
Yes, the whole cabin issue was brought before the council just last month. And for those that are, were questioning it, this is the maximum number that could be allowed, all right? The 5 is the maximum. And when we were discussing this, I thought to myself, well, that's not very many for 78 acres, but point of the matter, that's what we decided. So there can be no additional ones from that. Second of all, you all have done this longer than me on the planning and zoning, but on the county council, it's somewhat refreshing to have someone come before us and ask for the minimum. Okay, normally people are asking for very large wedding venues and music to 11 o'clock and all kinds of other things, and I think it's a little bit refreshing that these folks are asking for, much, much smaller amount. Again, I was somewhat shocked when I saw that they mentioned just 4 weddings. I thought that was, extremely small, but those are my thoughts.
Anyone else? Comments, questions of staff?
Yeah, I'll just make a few comments. There's a reason why we've got more opposition letters than support letters. This road we've heard some of the comments, but this road is very rural and very small. I'm familiar with the area. Obviously, I'm from the area, drive on the road all the time. And it's concerning that we're going to add quite a bit of traffic out here. But I'm happy and pleased that they're limiting the amount. And to Mrs. Barr's point, we could have a development in here of 15-something homes and everybody has 3 or 4 vehicles. This really is kind of meeting in the middle and stopping some of that development than where we could be. When I first saw this, I was 110% against it, thinking that this was not what this area needs. But if you step back and think about it, it could be a whole lot worse with, some other type of development or what we have going on just down the road and putting a huge winery in or something like that. So, I don't know, I'm starting to bend on the air of this is better than the alternative, to be honest with you.
Anyone else? Hearing no one. Chair will entertain a motion to approve CUP 22-08A, which is a campground, subject to the conditions proposed by staff.
I make a motion.
Mr. Cleary made the motion. Tracy made the, Ms. Barr, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwell?
Yes.
Ms. Bamer?
Yes.
Mr. Hollander?
Yes.
Ms. Kuchner?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
Mr. Clary?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The chair will entertain a motion to approve application CUP 22-08B, which is a conditional use permit for a commercial farm stand, subject to the recommendations proposed by staff.
Motion?
Motion by Ms. Barr.
Second.
Mr. Cornwell will give you the second. Mr. Fromm is not with us. Mr. Hollander, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
Mr. Clary?
Yes.
Ms. Bamer?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Ms. Kirchner?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Oh, Mr. Cornwell?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
How can I miss you, as big as you are? Chair will entertain a motion to approve CUP 22-08C, which is a conditional use permit for rural recreation activity, subject to the restrictions, requirements proposed by staff. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Cornwell. Is there a
Second.
second? Ms. Barr made the second. Okay. Yeah, this is a different one. Okay. Ms. Bamer, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Cleary?
Yes.
Mr. Fromm's not with us. Ms. Kirchner? Mr. Shell?
Yes.
Mr. Hollander?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwell?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Chair will entertain a motion to approve CUP 22-08D, which is a conditional use permit for building structures or open spaces for conducting weddings and/or wedding receptions or other private parties, subject to the conditions proposed by staff. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Cleary. Ms. Bamer, Mr. Cornwell.
Yes.
You vote yes. Ms. Kirchner?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Ms. Bamer?
No.
Nope. Where am I at? Mr. Hollander?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
No.
Mr. Cleary?
Yes.
Yes, and I vote yes. Okay, that motion passes. Okay. Okay. You're free to go. If you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting if you want, before we get into the next item.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is conditional use permit request, CUP 22-09. Property owners are Craig Smith, Ryan P. Smith, and Darlene Smith. Applicant is Ryan P. Smith for Lucky Dog Farm LLC. Property zoning is agricultural district with floodway fringe overlay district and floodway overlay district. Conditional use requests are A, commercial farm stand, B, a rural recreational activity, and C, a restaurant. The parcel size is approximately 8.05 acres. Location is on the west side of Wilmer Road, approximately 1 mile south of Interstate 70, adjacent to the city of Wentzville. This is located in Council District 2. Staff.
Okay, this has some similarities and some differences from the last set of conditional use permits that we reviewed. The property is 8 acres, and it's not nearly as remote as what we had just reviewed. It is unincorporated St. Charles County, about a mile south of I-70, near the Wentzville city limits, but it does not have residential subdivisions immediately next door. So it's 8 acres, it's agriculturally zoned, it's used for what I would call market gardening. It's intensively used, I would say. In other words, they have cultivation, they raise crops, and they have what I would call like maybe direct-to-consumer sorts of farming going on. Includes greenhouses, some permanent and some temporary, is the way I understand it, as well as some cultivation of some open plots. They're proposing to add some activities that would be based on use of the agricultural use of the property, including a commercial farm stand, rural recreational activity, and a restaurant. And just briefly, again, I just want to kind of characterize what's in the staff report rather than duplicate. But they already have a structure out there they've been using for a farm stand, and they'd like to they would like to use it as a commercial farm stand that would include produce and products produced on site, supplemented by outside foodstuffs and other related products. So it's about, I think, 360 square feet. It's not a large structure that we're talking about, and it's located hundreds of feet off of Wilmer Road, just for reference. And there's not any adjacent residences to this commercial farm stand. So in the staff report, it cites exactly how far it is. I think it's like 800 feet off the road. But let's see. Second, for rural recreational activity, our definition for rural recreational activity, it says a permanent or seasonal commercial activity drawing clients or customers to a rural property, either for such recreational purposes as picking produce for purchase, like pick your own apple orchards, pumpkin farms, for example, visiting pumpkin patches or corn mazes, and petting farms, taking sleigh rides or hay wagon rides. What they're proposing is in the same vein as those activities that I just mentioned, but it's a little bit different. They're proposing farm and food-centric educational activities like farm tours and classes, such as gardening, composting, canning, cooking. And then third, they're proposing a restaurant in that they would have a small commercial kitchen, which would be a 600 square foot commercial kitchen structure next to a 900 foot pavilion structure attached to a greenhouse. But as part of the experience that they're proposing, the farm experience, They want to include farm-to-table dinners outdoors, which is a very popular activity. It's been growing in popularity for not just here, but all over the United States. It's becoming very popular. So, in essence, what they have is a intensively farmed 8-acre plot of land that they want to have to be a destination. But when I say destination, a little bit like the last application we heard, it's more limited in scope, 360 square foot farm stand, activities for no more than 50 people at a time. And so, again, they're pretty limited. In terms of the restaurant, they're not proposing the type of restaurant where you just drive by and say, oh, let's pop in here. Really, they're talking about taking reservations and holding these farm-to-table dinners and events like that. So it's a little bit, it's not strictly what you traditionally think of as a restaurant, but it fits under that category. I should note that the applicants have reviewed the county staff report, and they sent in a request for some amendments to the conditions to fit within their business plan. So what I would say is that the county staff recommends approval with certain conditions. Those conditions are just there for as a point of reference. You're not obligated to follow any of them. You can ignore them, supplement them, or take them as presented. It's up to you. But county staff is recommending approval for each of the 3 with certain conditions.
Any questions of staff? Hearing none, we'll ask the applicant to come forward. Do you solemnly swear or affirmatively to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your names and address for the record.
My name is Ryan Smith, 1501 Wilmer Road, Wentzville.
And Darlene Smith, 1501 Wilmer Road, Wentzville.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, Ryan and Darlene Smith. We've been farming in this area, New Melly and now Wentzville, for over 12 years. Like Robert had mentioned, very market-style farming, small scale, no large equipment, no tractors, in a way that is very sustainable and regenerative to the soil that we have on our land. At our farm is our family residence. So first off and foremost, everything that we do on our farm, we're doing from a standpoint of protecting our family and what we have built, our property, our land, our home. As our farm has got, we sell to some local boutique restaurants. We have an online market store where families can place their orders online and come in and pick up, or we're open to the public. They can come and ask us, talk about what's in season and purchase that way. And when these families come to our farm and they are begging for their kids to be involved, for them to learn, for them to have these farm-to-table dinners, they're asking for more. They want to learn. They want to understand. They want to be engaged in agriculture that maybe they had growing up in that area and has since left. Based on the 45 letters that were emailed in to you guys, you can see that our community and our neighbors are asking for this. I would say most of the customers that are coming to our farm stand are customers of Wilmer Road, Highway N, and New Melly that are already passing by our roads on a daily basis.
So we are applying for the 3 conditional uses. First one being the commercial farm stand. This is an existing building that we have. We're just trying to make it legit with county code. So that, this is where we essentially market most of our product that we grow, aside from the product that we sell to local restaurants. There's a picture of the building, I think, in the packet there that you might be able to see. The next conditional use would be rural recreational activity. Like Robert said, we're looking to offer some more activities to our local community. We really feel like, or we have seen that, you know, agriculture is sort of becoming a thing of the past in the county, and people really, I mean, just constantly express to us how much they love the fact that our farm is there and that they can bring their kids to see, you know, agriculture and livestock up close. So we would like to offer our community the, you know, these activities that would allow them to come to the farm and, you know, experience or get their hands dirty with, you know, what we do. The third conditional use is a restaurant. Like Robert said, this is not a traditional restaurant like most people think. We would like to do farm-to-table dinners that are probably initially catered from, I think in every case, we'll probably be working with the chefs that we deal with on a weekly basis and sell to our produce to their restaurants in the community. They would be the ones initially preparing the food at their place of business and then catering it to the farm for these dinners. And then what we would ultimately like to do is build a commercial kitchen where some of the preparation could be done there. The primary use for the commercial kitchen would be for us to, you know, like a wash pack facility essentially for us to handle our produce and wash it, pack it up for sale to the, you know, to our local community. And then secondarily, we would, you know, use it for preparation of meals for the farm-to-table dinners that we would have on the property. There is an attached pavilion that we're proposing to the commercial kitchen that would allow us to host these events, you know, in inclement weather scenarios, or if, you know, it's a little colder than we want it to be. But ideally, we would have these in the field, close to our crops and livestock, where people can kind of see, get a real feel for where the food that's on their plate, exactly where it came from. So,
And we've actually met with the health department, making sure that everything for those dinners would be in line with what they would need for approval.
And I think as far as all the recommendations from staff were agreed upon with, you know, the number of guests. You know, this is we have a small scale kind of boutique farm, and, you know, that's the nature of everything that we will do is sort of in line with that, respectful to our neighbors, respectful to our local community, and you know, that's kind of our guiding principle. So,
Questions for the applicant?
Yeah, in this restaurant, how would that work? Would people like sign up online, and when you got a critical mass of people, then you would stage it? And also, how many of these events could you have in a day? You know, I'm sure there'd be time frames that people would be allowed to come. Maybe expand on that a little.
yeah, sure. So, yeah, it would always be reservation based, where we would post, you know, we're having a dinner available, and there's, you know, X number of seats available, and so those tickets could be purchased, and then once we're sold out, we're sold out. So
Right.
it's all
And how many could you do in a
reservation-based.
day, you think?
I would say one, except if it was maybe on a Sunday, you know, we might do 2 seatings.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
I've gone to several of these throughout the country, and that's usually what they do, is they do one a day. And, you know, if they're keeping a small operations, they might do just one a month starting off, and maybe once every 2 weeks, and until they build a following. And literally, some of those places or reservations are 3 years out.
At the the restaurant, the dinner, would you be serving, would you need a liquor license? Would you be offering wine, spirits, alcohol for sale?
Yeah, so, well, what we envision would be like wine-paired dinners, or, you know, dinners that are paired with spirits. But it wouldn't be, you know, we're not envisioning like an open bar that somebody can come and just, you know, go to town. So it would be mostly paired or specific to the meal.
I assume everyone got one of these sheets. On the rural recreational activity, you're wanting to add yoga classes?
That was, yeah, our initial request, yes.
Yoga with goats?
That is one,
I know. That's a popular thing?
You would be surprised
It's
how
very
popular that is. And my husband said, he's like, the
Yeah,
amount of
it's
calls
very
I
popular.
get on a daily basis are people asking, can we do goat yoga at your farm?
Yeah, very popular.
It is,
Sounds great.
do you need us to elaborate on that?
Yeah, you need to.
What is that? Yeah, I have no idea what that is.
Play with you.
Robert?
Unfortunately, that's one of the uses I cannot figure out how to fit in the agricultural zoning district. So I can't seem to fit that under any permissive uses or any of the conditional uses, so.
Would it fit under like a petting zoo? I mean, you got goats,
don't
you're
think so.
interacting with them, isn't it
Yeah.
kind of like you're just doing yoga in a petting zoo?
an instructor-led petting zoo.
Right. Well, my thought is that a rural recreational activity, it needs to intrinsically be an activity that would take place in a rural area. Like, for instance, you couldn't do really a corn maze in a commercial zoning district. You couldn't do, you know, picking pumpkins in a commercial zoning district. You know, so I think it needs to be something, a rural recreational activity needs to be something intrinsically having to do with the land in like a rural area.
So my question, I guess, would be, obviously you could do yoga in the city. It seems like it would be difficult to do specifically goat yoga in anywhere other than a rural
Yeah, that could be.
setting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know.
Okay. So explain to us what goat yoga is. That's new and new.
Yeah. So.
I thought Tom Brady was the goat, but now you're telling me.
So no, I would get it, you get out. Yeah, you get out there and you make the goat do downward dog. No, you're doing yoga while the goats are sitting on your mat, jumping on your back. It's a comical,
They're like
it's a, you know,
pygmy goats too, so they're very small.
right.
They're like
Still
puppies.
stinky, but yet people pay a lot of money for it. But yeah, it is yoga. You do need a large area, a place where the goats can eat and go to the bathroom, and you know, it on farm where we have plenty of acreage for them to do that. I also had always envisioned a farm flow where it was a yoga class where you, through the class, flowed through the perimeter of the farm. And we're able each week, you know, if you came back each Sunday for your yoga class, you could see the growth of the farm and really integrate into that. That was kind of always an envision I had regarding that.
So I guess my question would be, and I don't understand necessarily what exactly fits into rural recreation, but you said it has to be an activity that can only be done in a rural setting. So if it was restricted to only goat yoga and not just a standard yoga class, would that then fit into the definition?
I don't think so. I mean, I've thought about it, and I just can't see how yoga is a rural recreational activity. I mean, if we would call this a rural recreational activity, there's other things you could do with goats, you know, whatever it might be, you know, be
It is a specific thing.
financial consulting with goats.
That's not
or-
a thing, though. I mean, goat yoga is a thing.
It's a real
It
thing.
is, yeah.
And you don't see yoga classes with goats at the new Wentzville Recreational Center.
I mean, it's, you know, financial consulting with goats is not a thing.
I was gonna say, and this
Nobody
may be
does that.
Something, I mean, not necessarily considered
Counselor,
there,
go
but
ahead.
similar to how we've had, the council has recently considered a new definition of cabins and things like that. This may be something to take up sort of a kind of more expansive definition of rural recreational activity than what's currently in the code, to sort of, as these things evolve as well. Yeah, so.
So could you see this expanding to other animals like chicken yoga, whatever?
You know, puppy yoga has been
How about
suggested.
dancing with wolves?
Puppy yoga.
I mean,
Okay, now we're getting a little off base here.
Yeah. What animal are you looking for?
Is there something else you could call this other than yoga? I mean,
Yeah.
this farm experience, walking around every Sunday to a different spot.
Doing strange poses and.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, I'm.
Movement?
Pose down with
sure you
goats?
could,
I don't know.
But we, well,
recategorize
I
it.
mean, we can put it in.
Well, there is, in the definition of rural recreational activity, I think it refers to petting zoos. That's the closest you're going to get, I think.
there you go.
I mean, it is
Yoga
petting
pet.
zoo. I mean, and without stretching the truth, it is. People really are not there for the yoga.
I can tell you that, we need to come up with something here because the council really does not want to discuss goat yoga. Okay?
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, just, yeah.
Petting zoo.
So if it was a petting zoo, would they be allowed to do yoga in the petting zoo or no?
I don't know why they couldn't. I mean, what's to stop you from just stretching in the petting zoo?
And I think that's been, I think from a lot of our conversations through this due diligence process with Robert too, we had kind of come to agree that what we're bringing to the table is maybe out of the box for what our county code has had, in its past. We, are something new to our area, which seems odd that agricultural would be new to St. Charles County, but bringing, teaching about it and connecting with it is new.
Yeah, I just looked up the definition. It's actually petting farms is
Would
what it
this
calls for.
suffice, or is there an acreage requirement for that?
No. I mean, if they're proposing, the way the conditions are written, it doesn't specify which rural recreational activities. It just says that any of them that's allowed under the code, they could do rural recreational activities, any of them that's allowed under the code. So if they applied for a petting farm,
I think you're applying for a petting farm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And doing classes at your petting farm? Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Do they have to come back to do that, or can they add that to this while we're here?
they don't have to come back.
Okay. So you want a petting farm? There you go.
Okay, the other thing that we need to discuss is the commercial farm stand. Okay, no, we'll stay on rural recreational activity. Let's see, staff is proposing hours of operation from 8 AM to 6 PM. And you're asking it to be extended to 9 PM.
Particular color around that would be in August, you're not going to want to come to a farm class at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You would prefer to wait until 6 until the sun goes down, or on a Friday night after someone's got off work. So we'd still have daylight there until 9.
Just on the weekends?
Mainly, I would assume, but there could be a class on a Monday night or something.
What kind of people anticipated at the classes?
What kind of people?
What number of people? What number of people?
Number of people, I would say, generally 10 for something that's going to be hands-on. We're going to be, working with them one-on-one. We did put a maximum of 50 just for any larger events that we would have, but generally.
Like classrooms coming out or something like that?
Yes, yeah, 25 kids. And even then, talking to teachers who want to have field trips and things, we've talked about, reducing that number just so they can engage and take part in what we're doing.
What kind of classes? That was a mixture of our two comments.
Yes.
What
Okay.
kind of classes would you envision happening after 6 PM?
Yeah.
So if we did like, a fall gardening class or something where, that might occur during the week. And, people would need to be off work. We would like for the, sun to set a little bit so that it's, if it's a hot day, it's not brutally hot. We're also I would like to stress too, that we're also a very, very busy working farm. So our capacity is limited in every scope as to, I don't think you could envision any of these events getting out of hand to where we have, just event after event after event. I don't think we could handle that based on, this is our full-time job. And, we are limited by the number of hours in the day and the amount of energy that we have, so.
Anyone else? To my understanding, Counselor, you can maybe answer this question. Not a county ordinance question either. Daylight savings time, is next year the last, or is that just political talk?
I thought it passed, but I'm not sure.
Passed the
I
House,
think
but
it
not the Senate.
passed one. Okay.
Yep, it only passed one.
Yeah.
Daylight
So,
savings time.
well, my other concern is we've got different hours of, you've only got 8 acres, and we got 3 things going, we got different hours of operation for all 3 things. So to me, the hours of operation need to be a little bit more consistent. When you're,
Sorry if I could speak on that.
yeah,
So our initial proposal, the only thing we really set hours for was for our store. Typically, any store is going to have set hours. We don't want people coming at, all times of day and night. So the original hours we set were just for the store, and then we just said that any event we had would end no later than 10 p.m. So the staff had put in the 8 to 6 or 9 to 6, whatever it was.
it's 8 to the commercial farm stand will be closed between the hours of 6 p.m. and 8 a.m. So you're from 8 in the morning until 6 in the evening on the farm stand. And then the activities are from 8 to 6. So those two fit, okay. And then the restaurant is from 8 to 10.
Seems reasonable to me.
Well, unless the rural recreational activity, if, I want to come out and pick cucumbers at 7 o'clock after I get off work.
You do or you don't?
I do,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
And I think that was,
We can sign you up for that.
Pardon?
We can sign you up for that.
So you recommended making all the hours 8 to 10?
Well, the reason I asked about daylight savings time is that I can see during daylight savings time, closing them up at 6 is, well, no, I'm saying at maybe 7:30 or 8 with daylight savings time. So that during the hours of daylight savings time, the stand or the activities could be to 8 o'clock in the evening.
I mean, I could see that if you're having, like they said, if you're having a class, especially during the week, if they're adults and not children, that's gonna have to be after working hours, when people get off
Yeah.
work and then come take a gardening class or something in the evening. And I mean, you're talking about no more than 50 people, so, I mean, that's a pretty good-sized gardening class, but, I mean, how big would you think that your classes would tend to be?
I think most, like if it was a specific class like that, a hands-on class would be much more limited in scope in terms of the
So
number
like
of
20 people, or?
I would say 10 even, something like.
Yeah.
So the larger numbers you're thinking are more like your farm-to-table dinners specifically?
Specific, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, or if we had yoga classes, I mean, I don't know that,
The petting.
If
yeah,
you had lots
the
of
petting
people petting
farm
your
could
goats,
have, the
yeah.
petting farm could have up to 50 people, yeah.
Yeah, just for your clarification, the act which would make daylight savings time permanent has passed the Senate, has not passed the House, and has not been signed, so it hasn't been enacted yet or anything. And there appears to be less enthusiasm in the House. Just to be clear.
I mean, we would be restricted on, I mean, most activities would follow with, when it's going to get dark. And prior to that, in terms of an outdoor activity. Now, if we were doing something like a cooking class down the road when we have our commercial kitchen constructed and certified by the health department, obviously an indoor activity that could be lit might not be as restricted to daylight hours, but most of the outdoor activities would have to just occur when it's light out.
Yeah, so it's daylight savings time may not be a good standard from the beginning of spring to the end of summer, they could be, for these two things, they could be open till 8 o'clock in the evening, which is basically daylight.
Yeah, I don't think the time is so much of an issue. I think if we make it all consistent across the board and say
8 to 10.
or 9 to 9 or 9 to 10 or whatever, if I go to the class and I want to buy something at the little market as soon as I'm leaving, who cares? I'm already there for the class, right? So I would just think make it consistent so that way it's easy. It's easy for Robert's team to enforce. It's easy for you guys to know. Operations here, regardless of which conditional use, can only happen from 9 to 9
Yeah, 'cause
or 9 to 10.
You can post whatever hours you want.
Right.
Yeah. This doesn't say you have to be open at this time.
Yeah.
When you come
Yeah.
shopping at 9 PM, nope.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
So it looks
8
like
to
you're
10?
asking for 8 AM to 10 PM here for the restaurant, so would that, you'd prefer to have that? I mean, I know a lot of people like to eat dinner late at night.
That would clean up, I mean, that would clean up the,
Make it
I'm
consistent.
fine with that.
I am too.
8 to 10.
Okay. Okay.
So
Let's
do I need
see.
to make a motion to
Oh,
change that?
when we get.
Yeah, let's do it all at the
We're
end.
not that far yet. Let's see, the commercial, where am I at here? The stand. Where staff says any vendor market should be held inside the commercial farm stand structure designated on the concept plan. Their request is that stand is not large enough to host a vendor market inside. So if you look at the picture, it's not. So my question, Robert, is could we put a restriction that limits tables and/or tents within a certain radius of
Yeah.
the building?
Yeah, that would be fine. The only reason I suggested that condition, or the main reason I suggested that it be held inside, because if it were left open-ended, I thought, well, what if we have 25 vendors out there on weekends? You know, it could turn into this big commercial fair, which would be really cool, but it would not be necessarily in the spirit of the commercial farm stand.
Yeah. So what would you, 50 feet? 25 feet?
It's not much.
Yeah, I mean, 25 feet, I suppose. I mean, I don't know how many tables you're talking about, like the Meet the Maker, if you want to have, someone is making certain products and you want people to be able to kind of meet who's making it, and I don't know if you'd be talking about 2 tables, 3 tables, something like that.
I mean, so I'm trying to think how many,
And this commercial farm stand, by the way, is like 800 feet off of Wilmer Road, just for reference.
So it's not too close to the road?
No, no.
I mean, because that's only 3 8-foot tables, really. If it's only 25 feet, that's not much.
Yeah, well, I was even thinking in part of like a canopy type setup, right? You got a 10 by 10 canopy. So at 25 feet, you're putting 1 or 2 in there. I think it would be beneficial maybe to say a 50-foot radius around the farm stand. So that way you've got some areas you could set it a little further away. You can pop up your 10 by 10 canopy, have 3 or 4 different vendors out there, and make a fun Sunday afternoon out of it. I don't know if that's going to be too impeding on the area residents, and it's not going to get on the road, so.
No, because they're 800 feet away, that wouldn't be.
It's not so much, there is a concern about land use impacts for neighbors. I'm always concerned about that. But I'm thinking, the essence of this has to be a commercial farm stand. It shouldn't be like a flea market or some sort of a farmer's market, even though, again, both of those activities are really cool. But under the zoning, we're limited to the commercial farm stand definition.
yeah, I mean, the farm stand, the regular use of the farm stand as just our store, as is, you know, I mean, that's 95% of, really, I'd say, of the proposed use. I mean, these markets that we're talking about would be pretty rare. So they would certainly not be regular, and we would not be looking to, you know, host a large market where there's, you know, 40 or 50 vendors. We would be talking about the people that, you know, whose products that we would, you know, we would be purveying in our store, so, alongside our own.
Okay.
So what would you propose then? I mean, what?
50 feet?
For a radi,
Yeah.
we're talking a radius?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 50 feet is fine. There's, the primary room is, directly in front of the store, and then there's a grass area just on the other side of the Circle Drive, so, I think 50 feet would be sufficient.
Okay, the next issue is the restaurant restaurant use will take place inside the commercial kitchen and underneath the pavilion structure as designated on the approved concept plan. Say that your intention is to primarily have the farm to table dinners and other events on areas of the farm that are in direct vicinity of the crops in the field. Areas would be easy to access and would be lit with low-intensity lighting.
Under the pavilion, so you
No.
got the pavilion and lights up underneath it, is what you're saying?
No.
Well, we would have the pavilion available, I think, mostly for like inclement weather events, but in most cases, we would like to have them, in the field, near the crops.
Tables and chairs out set by the cucumbers.
Yeah, with Christmas lights.
You love those cucumbers, man.
I wouldn't eat one.
We wouldn't have the public in the kitchen either. That would just be for our use.
Yeah. Because we haven't addressed, how would you do the lighting?
Well, for example, we have a spot with 4 or 5 nice mimosa trees that is sort of adjacent to one of our gardens, and there's an area underneath that, and, we would just do that, like string lighting, basically. Yeah.
Okay, so you wouldn't be installing any poles to hang lights on?
I might put a T-post in and hang it from that to a tree
Oh,
or something.
but not a
telephone pole.
No, nothing permanent. So.
Okay. Robert, thoughts?
Well, the concept plan that they provided has some activity areas outlined in green, and I was wondering if the proposed farm-to-table dinners are proposed within those activity areas.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe that'd be one way to kind of direct where they could be held, so neighbors would know where they're supposed to be.
Okay, so
held.
they can be in the blue outlined public activity areas.
Yeah, the ones that are outlined in blue, the 2 that say open space, and then it's cut off here, but the blue square adjacent to the other ones is the pavilion. And then that small blue rectangle up towards the left corner is our farm stand. So those would be the specific areas where we would have events. Not to say that we wouldn't tour the other areas of the farm, but if we had an event such as a farm table dinner, they would take place in those locations.
Okay. I think that we've got everything covered. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We will now open the public hearing for CUP 22-09. Anyone here wishing to speak regarding this application? Yes, sir.
Happy Christmas to everybody.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
John Jones, 209 Wilmer Ridge Drive, Wentzville.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
We live nearby, and there's been a lot of, I guess, levity here about this proposal. We don't find it the least bit humorous. We live nearby. There's going to be noise pollution, light pollution, drunk pollution, and there are no businesses on Wilmer Road with customers coming in and out. There are none. In subdivisions and single residential homes. We bought it to have our families in a safe area where they're not going to be molested at night with noise, with classes, with goats and whatnot. We drive by that farm, we've been by many times. Have you all driven down Wilmer Road? And have you driven by Lucky Farm? It's not well maintained, I can tell you. As far as the junk in there and the mud and everything else, you know, it's on a slope, downward slope. It's not your picture of a farm. It's an 8-acre lot, okay? And we think this is a huge, drastic change from the nature of Wilmer Valley, where it's residential, it is totally family-oriented. This may be family-oriented, but it doesn't belong in a residential area. It belongs out in the country. And restaurants, within a mile, there are dozens of restaurants on the outer road and the Wentzville Parkway, so forth. So if they want to start a restaurant, there's commercial lots all over. New Melly, Wentzville. So, you know, it's located between two sharp bends on Wilmer Road. And, you know, I've not seen, you have privy to these studies. I assume that there's architectural studies, buffer zone studies, landscape studies, parking studies, EPA studies, but I haven't seen them. I mean, you guys have it, we haven't. So, you know, for all these reasons, and it really disturbs us with this, hearing these hours at night. I mean, at night, we can see this farm from our house, okay? We don't want the noise pollution, we don't want the light pollution. Where we can see the stars right now, well, you light up this farm and you put the drunks on the road, it's already dangerous enough on Wilmer Road. So we don't find this proposal funny at all, the goat yoga or anything. And it may have its place out in the country, but, you know, we are, you know, and this hearing, we only got this notice last week. It was dated the 5th of December. We only got it last week. And so here it is, Christmas week. I don't think this is a good timing to get people in here, you know, to give their voice. Now, they may have customers, although I drive by there every day. I never see anybody drive into that farm except the occupants. Now, there may be when I'm not there. So I don't think it's maybe doing that great right now. Maybe this is why they want to expand it. But they're turning a valley that is all residential into, you know, a commercial enterprise with three sub-projects in there. And so, you know, I'd ask that you listen to the residents on, you know, that live there and the families that live there, and not these people trying to make more money off their 8-acre lot. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? You solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings, or the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Mike Garcia, and my address is 157 Bay Hill Village Drive, O'Fallon, Missouri.
Go ahead, sir.
I just want to talk about the nature of the farm in general. It's the whole purpose of the farm is regenerative agriculture. So we're farming without the use of nasty, toxic chemicals. So that's the basis of why we're farming. The whole purpose to have a restaurant per se is so we can give people an experience of eating high quality organic food that was grown in soil, right? We want to give them the opportunity to come eat that food that we grew with our hands, not with machines. The idea that this is going to attract drunken traffic, I think, is far-fetched, needless to say. It's a very family-oriented farm. Through the farm, because of it, my family, Ryan's family, and many other families have started a homeschooling community out of this. So because of the farming community has gotten bigger, but so is the sense of community as a whole with our kids and everything. So the idea of this drawing a drunken crowd, I think, is a little absurd. But I just want to let you guys know that we're here for the well-being of the community, not to pillage it in any way.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? You solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Janice Walters, 29 Greystone Court, St. Charles, Missouri. I
Go
also
ahead.
have property at Innsbruck. I came to express my support for this. I'm a customer of Darlene and Ryan's. I went in search of a place to buy real food, grown in real soil, without chemicals and not processed. My family and I set out to rearrange the way we shop for, purchase, acquire our food, and prepare it. We set out to buy local, support local farmers, eat foods that are grown in season. We were looking for something that's literally beyond organic, and specifically very nutrient-dense foods. And my sister happened to find Darlene's farm and meet them and Ryan. We've been shopping there. I've been shopping there for 6 months, my sister a month or so longer, through a crop share program. I never know what vegetables I'm going to get. They've introduced me to vegetables that my great-grandmother would have grown on the farm she grew up on and raised her children on. I am excited about the opportunity to come to the farm, learn more about how these new vegetables are prepared and served. I visit the farm often en route from my home to Innsbruck, so I'm using those roads anyway, shopping in the area and coming and going along routes I travel often. I've even had the opportunity to have my grandchildren in the car with me on occasion when I have visited the farm, and they have had the opportunity to learn more about where their food comes from, learn to respect the contribution that our farmers have to our health, the sustainability, and I think that there is something very unique and special happening on this farm that we can all learn from and come maybe to appreciate more about our relationship with our food, how it affects our health, and I think it's a really, really great thing for our area. My grandchildren frequently ask when they can go and see the chickens and piggies again after Halloween. Instead of throwing pumpkins in the trash, our pumpkins went back to the farm and they got to feed them to the pigs, and one of them went over the fence to the chickens. What a great way to recycle things. They are also eating their vegetables now with fewer fights. It's a really neat place, and I'm excited to see as much engagement that you all have had tonight with them learning about their vision for their contributions to the community, because we much appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else? You solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Carol Pankey, 1615 Wilmer Road.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, so I understand that basically the conditional use permit request is primarily for activities that they've been doing, already been operating at Lucky Dog Farm. We live on Wilmer Road. There are 5 acres between our property and Lucky Dog Farm, which my mother owns. There's no house there, but my husband takes care of that 5 acres for her. We don't have a problem with the farm stand, which they've been operating, but we do have concerns about the restaurant. I mean, we were here years ago trying to have it rezoned for multifamily residents, and they wanted to put 29 homes on it at that time, and it was the same family. So much rather see a farm stand than 29 homes. Number one concern is parking. They're saying that they have parking provided for 20 guests along their driveway, but if they allow 50 guests, where would the overflow parking go? And then I did have a question if alcohol would be allowed, which it seems like it would be somewhat. There's a lot of traffic on Wilmer Road. You come down a hill and a curve right about at the entrance of their farm, and there are a lot of accidents there. And it's a lot of young kids that are driving too fast and are slowing down. I mean, this would be added traffic and possibility of more problems in that area. We've talked about the goat yoga, which I know they've had, and I've seen the cars lined up on the driveway for it. I know they have chickens. I'm wondering what other small animals are allowed. Are pigs permitted? We haven't seen them there for quite a while, but I think they're back again. I have a lot of comments from people in the area asking, are the pigs allowed? And if they are, is there a number, or, what are the restrictions? Can they have cows? Can they have goats? They do have chickens. There's been a considerable amount of cleanup recently, and I suppose that's mostly to get the conditional use permit approved. And I'm just wondering, if it is approved, how will it be monitored? It seems like, 8 acres is not a very big farm. They are doing good things, and I'm not against the farm stand, but I am concerned about the restaurant. And if you're talking about rehearsal dinners and weddings and more people, where are those additional people going to be parking? And then you're talking about extending the hours even later also, so just concerns.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? You solemnly swear or affirmatively will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or in the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Dwayne Jansen, address of 137 Tulip Tree Drive, St. Charles, Missouri, 63304.
Go ahead, sir.
I've been involved with the Lucky Dog Farm for, I think, 5 years now. I take care of the beehives that they have on their property, so there are beehives there. We harvest the honey. They sell it in their food stand. I've watched them grow over the last 5 years with the things that they're doing, things that they want to offer. Everything that I see that they do, they put their heart and soul into it. I think that they're very well educated. I've learned a lot about plants that I'm not a plant guy. I'm also not a produce guy. I'm not a fruit and vegetable person. And Darlene's been after me to eat some greens, but someday I will. Anyhow, as far as the noise, I'm going to be honest. We've already stated it's back off of Wilmer Road quite a distance. I cannot see there being anything out there, to my knowledge, that is going to be of a noise issue. Light pollution, he's already stated that he's not putting up any telephone poles with lights. I don't see how there's going to be any light pollution off of that. I think any lighting he's doing is going to be very localized, shining down, and not, across the street or what have you. Traffic, I'm going to be honest with you, I've been out there early in the morning, I've been out there in the afternoons, I've been out there at night, close to dusk before. My thoughts of Wilmer Road is, yes, it's a traveled road. I don't feel it is a heavily traveled road. It's also not the least traveled, I'm sure. But I really haven't noticed a lot of difference in the amount of traffic depending on the time of day. I have been out there working with the bees, which is a safe distance from where they're having their events, and I don't notice an increase in traffic. I don't, and I'm paying, the car is going up and down the driveway, yes, but it's not like it's all day long or anything like that. So, I think it's a good thing. It sounds like you all are trying to clarify some things, which I know when you get into agricultural and farming, sometimes there's, where do you, define this or that, so, sounds like y'all are really trying to, define some things and work some things out, and I'm glad to see that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no one? Mr. Dinoff. You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or in the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you very much. Arnie C. A.C. Dinoff, County Public Advocate, mailing address P.O. Box 1535, O'Fallon. This is a good concept plan that's been presented to the commission. However, there's some wavering issues that really need to be addressed by staff and made a part of the record. I think the commission also needs to know more and ask more in-depth questions here. They've been operating without the approvals, unfortunately. It kind of sounds like possibly up to 5 years. There are several outstanding planning and zoning violations, issued citations by the Division of Building and the Division of Code Enforcement, and our Public Health Department and the Environment. There are outstanding citations and issues, and I believe they're in county municipal court. So I'd like to hear from staff exactly what, are they outdoor maintenance issues, or have they just been operating without a license for the last 5 years? What are the extremes and what are the depths of these citations? Are they unlicensed vehicles? Are they brush and debris, trash? I mean, I really think that needs to be a matter of the public record, and there needs to be some honesty with what exactly what these citations exactly mean here. Now, there's some not consistencies, or there's some issues here that I've read that really need to be drilled into, and the place to make the assurances and protections, of course, is for the conditional use permit. So they say that there'll be no outdoor loud audible acoustic music or speakers. However, they say that there will be speakers or audible events within the restaurant. So I don't know if that's going to be a band. I think that there needs to be a condition that addresses doors being open, especially in the summer, hot months. That needs to be addressed.
When you
I'd
say
like to
doors, what do you mean, from the restaurant?
Yeah.
Because I think everything's, if my understanding, it's outdoor.
It's a pavilion.
It's all
Open
outdoor.
air
It's nothing-
pavilion.
Oh, okay. Then there's an issue where they say that they're not going to have acoustical music, but then with the restaurant, they say that they're going to have acoustical music. So that really needs to be homed in, whether you're going to allow that or not. And so if it's going to be open, I really think that that would be a problem for the adjoining neighborhood. I'd like to see a condition that no fireworks be allowed for any of the events. And then they also talk about parking of vehicles. So let's go to the limit of guests. They say that the limit of guests in the CUP for the restaurant is limited to 50, but then they talk about the recreational use CPU for 50. So that could be a potential 50 to 60 cars. So that needs to be homed in. Do they want 100, 50 for each use, or is it 50 maximum? And I'd like to see that made firm and really understandable. I also like to see a condition that no overnight camping be allowed, a condition for no recreational vehicles or campers be allowed. And let's see here. The amendments I'm okay with, the goats with the yoga and the tables with the 50-foot radius. The city of Wentzville, I don't know if they've been notified, but usually they put comments in with things like this. I don't see any comments from the city of Wentzville. The Fire Protection District, the Wentzville Fire Protection District, I don't see any feedback or comments in terms of egress and ingress and availability of responding fire trucks, ladder trucks, and other first responding units. This is a low-impact, non-intensive request, minimum impact to the area rather than the 29 houses that was slated a number of years ago. This would fall inside the County Code of Standards for 405.5103 and 405.060. I believe it also meets the County 2030 Master Land Use and Zoning Plan. But I really would like the commission to drill in on those conditions. It's really skeptical if they're asking for two separate 50 people attendance for the recreational area and 50 for the restaurant. And if that would be, there would be a parking issue. They testified that they're going to have 20 parking spots. I don't think that that is enough for this facility. And so I would encourage the commission to up that to a better number, such as maybe 28 or 30. But I would ask for approval of the commission for a recommendation to the county council, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak regarding CUP 22-09? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. Ask the applicants to come back. Got too many pieces of paper going here. Any questions for the applicants?
So do you want to clarify to Mr. Dienhoff's point about is it 50 and 50 or 50 total at any one time?
50 total at any one time. We would not have overlapping events. The only caveat to that would be that if we have an event that's maxed out at 50 people, which I would say most events are not going to have that many people, but if we did have one that was maxed out at 50 people, depending on the time, we could have, some patrons that show up to shop at the store that aren't part of the event. But our store will close at 6 p.m. and, I would say as far as the dinners and everything, they would all be taking place after that. So in almost all cases, there will be no more than 50 people.
And we're a small-scale farm. There's, very few of us that are working these farm events, and we wouldn't do that to ourselves to be able to manage that. And even then, if we do have an event that's intensive that Ryan and I both need to be on the scene, we would put the market closed sign up and let our patrons know that the market's closed, and wouldn't be scared to do that. That would be very standard practice for something like that.
Now, Mr. Dinoff's comment about the music in your business narrative, if I can find this again, under the restaurant, you have public gatherings featuring farm tours, low-key acoustic music. Now, in our current conditions proposed by staff is outdoor sound amplification shall be prohibited. Okay, so there is a difference there. So I can come and play my guitar, I just can't amplify my guitar or my voice. So you
Right.
I think that's how everything read. There was not, the idea was that everything would be non-amplified.
Yeah. Again, this is small scale. We want maybe some background noise, music or something like that. And yeah.
Okay. Might as well get it off the table. Outstanding citations.
Yes.
That's up to you whether you want to discuss that or not.
Yeah, I think, so in a nutshell, we started very small. It was, Darlene worked away from home. So we we have grown from something very small to where we are now and where we, hope to be in the future. And to be honest with you, the journey of, figuring this all out has been, figuring out tax code and what taxes we need to collect and pay, and figuring out liability insurance. And no part of that in an agricultural perspective is easy. To be, perfectly honest, I wasn't familiar with the county code. That you know, how it's written and what was allowed and what wasn't. The greenhouses that we have constructed on the farm, I didn't realize, you know, was going to need a building permit to put those up. Some of them are more permanent, some of them are, you know, like a temporary hoop house. But the other big thing was that when COVID hit, prior to that, most of our business was to local restaurants. We had a small amount of business to our local community and neighbors and whatnot. When COVID hit and all the restaurants closed, what essentially happened is, there was this huge influx of interest in, getting locally grown food and, knowing where your food comes from. And so our business model quickly shifted to just marketing and selling our produce to our local community. And then fast forward, restaurants reopen, we've, regained some of those relationships. And so it's been very much a roller coaster throughout the process. And so we're, trying to figure it all out and, get right with code and whatnot.
And I
Thank you,
would
sir.
say the operating without approvals, like Arnie had mentioned, maybe 5 years, that's, for many years, we operated with a temporary market stand. It was a refrigerator outside our house. We would walk outside. There was no market structure there, to be where we were not compliant. So we just, we had built our primary market stand about 1 year ago. And in May, when the first citation became open, that's really what brought us here. So as I understand, the only open citation that we have is this citation to get the market stand legal, the conditional use for that, which is what brought us here today. Any of our events that we had hosted in the past that we didn't understand were against, we had the liability insurance, like Ryan said, we were paying the taxes on we thought we were doing all the right things as a startup business, ceased. Once we got notification from the county in the visit, we ceased all notifications of that. We have met with the health inspector twice on our farm. Both of those cases were closed. There were no issues for us to move forward with anything we were doing at that time.
And I have spoken to, I have met with the fire marshal in our area several times. We've obtained an occupancy permit. We have building permits that have been completed on the greenhouses, and if the conditional use permit is approved, we'll then obtain, proper building permit on the farm stand.
And that was as direction from the building departments that they didn't want to approve the farm stand until we got the conditional use permit. So that's why that's still open.
And also a point of clarification on the farm stand, that building was actually just kind of a dilapidated building that the previous owner had constructed. It was part of an addition to their mobile home, and when the mobile home was moved off, the building was still there as more of a permanent structure. So we essentially just rehabbed it and started selling our produce out of it, so it wasn't, a big project that we, constructed out of nowhere, so.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, it seems like some of the comments were about lighting and nighttime type stuff, and we had originally talked about kind of 10 o'clock. If we backed that, kind of meet in the middle and say 9 o'clock, would that be hurtful? Would that be something you guys could do? It also kind of sticks to our we're done by dark kind of thing as well. You think that would be a huge issue? And we're listening to some of the concerns of the neighbors, but also trying to help you guys out as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that would be an issue. I mean, yeah, all of our events are gonna be, low-key in nature, subtle lighting, not a lot of ruckus noise and whatnot, so, but yeah, I don't see where, limiting it to 9 o'clock would be a big problem.
Okay, and because you do know you'll need to research whether or not you're going to need a liquor license.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Any other questions?
So the 20 parking spaces, was that something that you determined, or is that something the county was saying for that size event you'd need?
I sized that based off the county code.
Okay. So Robert, does that sound like that would meet with county code, 50 people with 20 spaces?
I don't know whether that number's 20 or 25, but at this point, we're at the concept plan stage, and they could easily accommodate 5 or 10 more, however many they need when they do their site plan. Because it's located about 800 feet off of Wilmer Road, and the parking is along the edge of the property about 700, 800 feet back.
Right. And who will determine that? Will the county determine that?
Yeah, we would, county staff would when they apply for a site plan.
Okay. Thank you.
I think in most cases, especially with the dinners, people come as, you know, as a couple or, you know, with a friend or whatnot, so.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
I would, Mr. John Jones, I think that spoke, I don't know if he was looking at the right address of our property. And I think if there's questions about junk and mud and a slope, we really don't sit on a slope from, if you pass by on the road, it's beautiful landscaped agriculture right now. Even in the winter, we have cover crop growing that's, you know, beautiful rows. Anything in our shed, our work area is so far, 700 or 800 feet off of the road that guests couldn't see that. So I don't know if that was directed at the right property address.
Okay.
There was also a question about the livestock on the farm in terms of, I think pigs specifically. Was there a certain number that are allowed, and are there any other restrictions on livestock?
I can answer that.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, the county's zoning code has limitations on animal units by type of animal, but it's really having to do with concentration or concentrated feedlots. So we're talking about hundreds of animals, or basically, if you're at that point, you have to apply for a conditional use permit to have animal feed concentrations. But what they're talking about there is nowhere near that level. Their property is zoned agricultural, and agricultural is allowed by right in the agricultural zoning district.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would say on average, we have no more than 10 pigs, and, you know, we raise them and have them packaged and labeled at a USDA inspected facility for sale to our customers, so.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we'll bring CUP 22-09 back to the commission for consideration. We'll again have to take three votes. Any other questions, comments, questions of staff?
We're gonna change the time.
Yeah, you're going to have to,
Yeah.
you have to take more than that if we're going to, yeah, amend them.
Yeah. Okay, so, CUP 20-09A. The current recommendation by staff is the commercial farm stand shall be closed between the hours of 6 PM and 8 AM. So is there a motion that we delete the proposed Amendment 5 and add the commercial farm stand shall be open between the hours of 8 AM and 9 PM?
Motion.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Let's see, do I need to call the roll on them? No, I don't have a sheet.
Shall be open only during the hours, I think.
Pardon?
Shall be open only during the hours. You said it shall be open those hours?
Oh, yeah. Be open between the hours of 8 AM to 9 PM.
For the sake of consistency, I might just recommend the hours of operation shall be limited to 8 AM to 9 PM.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, limited to.
Okay.
What he said.
Yeah. And then you also had wanted to expand the operation in number 3 from within the structure to within,
50
inside.
feet radius.
From inside the structure to inside or within 50 feet of the structure.
Yeah, we'll get
As
to,
well,
we'll
okay,
get
just
to
wanna
that
make sure.
one. Okay. We're going to vote on the amendment to CUP 22-09A, which establishes the hours of operation for the commercial farm stand. Anyone have any questions? Hours of operation should be 8 AM to 9 PM,
Shall be limited to, yep.
Limited to.
limited to. Okay. Motion's been made and seconded?
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Ms. Bamer?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwell?
Yes.
Mr. Clary?
Yes.
Mr. Hollander?
Yes.
Ms. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, now this is CUP 22-09A, hours of operation. Second entry. Okay. Now, the chair will entertain a motion to approve CUP 22-09A, commercial farm stand, subject to the conditions, the amended conditions proposed by staff.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Clary made the second, Ms. Bamer made the motion. Okay, so we're adopting all of the conditions except we've amended number 5.
Sorry, real quick, were you going to amend number 3 too, to be inside or
That's right, I'm on the
50
call,
feet of?
that's right,
Apologies.
Counselor.
Just making
Okay,
sure.
we need another, here, I gotta get another sheet.
I think that actually was for the restaurant, the third CUP, the C.
Yeah, I thought there was discussion to have.
50-foot radius.
50-foot
Right.
radius.
Yeah,
to-
yeah, yeah.
Around the outside.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So
And then there was also the, with the
Yeah.
restaurant as
Okay.
well, yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, so,
So where would say, between inside and the, you would just have to add,
yeah,
and
so.
within 50 feet of.
Right now, CUP 22-09A states, number 4, condition number 4, any vendor market shall be held inside the commercial farm stand structure designated on the concept plan. Okay, so is there a motion to amend condition 4 that any vendor markets shall be held inside the commercial farm stand structure or within a 50-foot radius of said structure as designated on the concept plan? Mr.
Second.
Hollander made that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Barr made the second. Okay, any questions on this amendment? Okay. Ms. Kuchner, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
Ms. Bamer?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwall?
Yes.
Mr. Clary?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Hollander?
Yes.
And I vote yes. I did get you on that last one, didn't I?
Yeah,
I got you.
we're good.
Okay, we're good.
The big guy said yes, so you're right.
Okay, so the chair will entertain a motion to approve CUP 20-209A as amended.
Motion.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Second. Okay, Mr. Hollander, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwall?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Ms. Bamer?
Yes.
Mr. Clary?
Yes.
Ms. Kuchner?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, now, let's move on to CUP 22-09B, which is rural recreational activity. Now, okay, so our amendment here would be to amend the hours of operation shall be limited to 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Chair will entertain a motion to amend the condition 4 to read the hours of operation shall be limited to 8 a.m. to until 9 p.m.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Clary?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
Ms. Bamer?
Yes.
Ms. Kuchar?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwall?
Yes.
Mr. Hollander?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So this is 22-09B, hours of operation. Okay, now, Robert, we don't need to amend this. Petting zoo is that allowed? Do we need to add that?
I don't think you need to address it, because it says, any activities shall comply with the definition of rural recreational activity as defined in section blah, blah, blah.
Okay. Next is CUP 22-09.
We have to vote on that.
You have to vote on B, yeah.
The amended condition.
You amended, you didn't vote on it with
Oh.
the amended condition. Yep.
Oh, that's right. Too many pieces of paper. Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to pass CUP 22-09B
Motion,
as amended.
motion.
Motion's been made. Favor, second. Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Clary?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwell?
Yes.
Mr. Hollander?
Yes.
Ms. Kuchner?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
And Ms. Bamer?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, so B is done. This was A. Now we get to C. Okay, so CUP 20-09C, number 2, the restaurant shall take place inside the commercial kitchen and underneath the pavilion structure as designated on the approved concept plan. So this should read, the restaurant shall take place inside the commercial kitchen and are underneath the pavilion structure or in designated public activity open spaces as identified on the approved concept plan.
Sounds good.
That work?
That works.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion.
To,
Condition number
there a
2.
motion to amend, condition 2 on, CUP 22-09C as previously stated? Now you can make the motion.
No, I don't want to anymore. No. Motion.
Is there a second? Second. Ms. Kuchner made the second. Mr. Hollander?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
Ms. Bamer?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwell?
Yes.
Mr. Clary?
Yes.
Mr. Fromm's not here. Ms. Kuchner?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Now, let me get caught up here. CUP 22-09C, number 2. Okay, so that was, now, the only other issue is under CU 22-09C, we say no more than 50 guests may be present at the restaurant at any one time. And then under 22-09B, rural recreational activities should be limited to 50 guests at any one time. Which conceivably could mean 100 people.
And you've already, yeah, you've already voted to approve the one. And we could change the C to say no more than 50 guests may be present on the property at any one time, if you wanted to try it, and then
We could
that would
amend
create
it.
effectively a limitation
Yeah.
for total for all 3.
Yeah. I mean, we could amend C and don't have to go back to B.
Exactly. It would
Yeah.
effectively create a limitation that
Yeah.
applies to all of them.
Uh,
And you also wanted to pull back 10 PM to 9 PM on 5, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Not to be more of a pain.
So 29C, okay. Okay, so Chair will entertain a motion to, I can both do these in one motion, 5 and 6, can I?
If you want to do it together, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so Chair will entertain a motion to amend condition number 5 and number 6 in 22-09C So number 5, the hours of operation shall be limited to 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And number 6, no more than 50 guests shall be present on the property at any one time.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, motion. Where's Mr. Cornwell? Second. Mr. Cleary, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Hollander?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
Ms. Kuchar?
Yes.
Ms. Bamer?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwall?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, this is number 4 and 5. Okay, now, that should take care of that, I think.
Yeah, you now approve it as amended.
So now, Chair will entertain a motion to approve 22-09C, a restaurant, with conditions proposed by staff as amended.
Motion.
A motion, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Shell made a second. Mr. Shell, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Clary?
Yes.
Mr. Hollander?
Yes.
Ms. Kuchner?
Yes.
Ms. Bamer?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwell?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
A lot of paper.
And we're done. Okay. We'll just straighten this out later. And Marissa.
Y'all are free to go if you want.
Yeah, you're free to go if you're,
You're a lucky dog.
anybody need a break, potty break? Yeah, we'll take a short 5-minute break. Back in order. And our next is a conditional use permit amendment request. Application number CUP 22-13. Property owner is Kiki Neat Enterprises Incorporated. Applicant is Elmer Krusel. Did I get that right? Property zoning is C2 General Commercial District. Conditional use request, amending ordinance 15-123, CUP 15-09 for automobile and truck sales for U.S. Motors. The parcel size is 2.37 acres. The location is on the east side of South Callahan Road at the intersection of North Service Road along Interstate 64, adjacent to the city of Wentzville, located in Council District 2. Staff.
As noted, this is a conditional use permit amendment. So in 2015, they received a conditional use permit to convert what had been an old closed gas station into auto sales, which they've applied for site plan. They're operating now, and now they'd like to expand on the rest of the parcel. The remainder of the parcel, it was a lot of it used to be excess right-of-way for MoDOT, which was purchased, and it's all consolidated in one parcel now. The amendment to the conditional use permit is a little bit different than the initial conditional use permit in that it really revolves around the conditions themselves and what the wording should or should not be. So in other words, if this should be denied, they'll still have their existing conditional use permit. That will not be affected. So they're asking for an amendment. The amendment refers to both the concept plan that they've turned in and as well as the conditions like hours of operation, lights, et cetera. So county staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the 9 new conditions at the end of your memorandum.
Any questions of staff? Hearing none, we'll ask the applicant to come forward. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or in the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Okay, my name is Elmer Krusel. I'm a civil engineer with operating out of my home at 35 Thoreau Court in O'Fallon, Missouri, 63366.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. As staff said, the U.S. Motors is operating out of this facility today, and they recently purchased the excess right-of-way from the state that made about 2/3 of the site now usable, where they're operating on just about 1/3 of the site. So they're planning on expanding their parking and adding a 60-foot by 80-foot prefabricated metal building that will be used primarily as a detail facility for the cars that they want to sell, and possibly have a couple of maintenance bays to add to the maintenance bays in their present facility. There is a rain garden on the site. We're planning to use that rain garden for stormwater management with whatever else is needed to meet the ordinance conditions in the Unified Development Ordinance. The landscaping is planned along the residential property to the east of the site with meeting the Unified Development Ordinance with a site-proof fence and landscaping, and also landscaping along both Callahan Road and Washington Road to the north. So that's basically what we're doing, is just utilizing the property to its potential and adding a detailing facility with some possibly a couple of maintenance bays and additional parking.
Okay. I see on the site plan, around the proposed building, there's going to be asphalt?
Yes, it's existing as asphalt, and the proposed will be asphalt.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, thank you, sir. You can have a seat, you may be back.
Okay.
We will now open the public hearing for conditional use permit amendment request for CUP, this is CUP 20-13 to amend CUP 15-09. Anyone wishing to speak? You solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or in the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, County Public Advocate. Mailing address, P.O. Box 1535, O'Fallon. I'm in favor of this expansion. I just want to tighten up some of the conditions here. Looking at the plans, I am not confident that there's enough ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act compliant parking. And I would ask Mr. Myers if it meets our county code for the appropriate number of ADA parking slots. I also would like to see a condition added to this that no derelict vehicles or long-term unlicensed vehicles remain on the property. I understand that, you know, if they're trying to sell a vehicle for 30 or 45 days, I get that, or if they're waiting for a part. But if there's body damage, that type of thing, you know, they need that 35 to 45 days to work out with an actuary of the insurance company. I understand that. But besides that, there should be no long-term unlicensed or derelict vehicles. I want to make sure that there's adherence to the Type 3 landscape buffer provided to comply with Section 405.435 of the Unified Codified Ordinance for the abutting adjoining homes in the Warson Hills subdivision. And finally, I want to make sure that we really make sure in Home Down here, runoff water, that it be treated with the new M4 state regulations. It goes into St. Louis Lake, and that lake is highly polluted with chemicals, and it's becoming a dangerous type lake for that community and that association. And any added runoff from an automotive type facility with oil and solvents and transmission fluid, coolant, those type of things, I think is very concerning, and we want to make sure that water is treated before it leaves this facility. Those are my comments, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for the applicant? Oh, anyone else wishing to speak? I'm getting ahead of myself, it's getting late. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. Anyone have any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, we'll bring, let me find this one. There we go. CUP 22-13, back to the commission for consideration. This is to amend CUP 15-09. Now, in your packet, there is currently, page 3 of 13, currently 9 conditions approved through the ordinance of 15-123. We're replacing those with the recommendations that are on page 15 and 16. Is that correct, Robert?
5 and 6.
Or 5 and 6, rather. Okay, 5 and 6.
It seems to me that this adequately addresses it, and this does seem like a responsible plan going forward, and I would, obviously, I guess there has to be more discussion, but I think it makes sense.
Robert, with condition number 5, talking about stormwater, this will have to come back has to meet the new county standards?
Yeah. You know, when this went in effect in 2015, the county didn't have standards for water quality. So that was why that condition was added. And honestly, this condition could be removed because we replaced that with ordinances that require stormwater quality standards. But I guess it doesn't hurt to leave it in, really.
Okay. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve CUP-22-13, which amends CUP 15-09 with the conditions set forth by staff.
Motion.
Okay, Mr.
Second.
Mr. Holler made the motion, Mr. Fleury made the second. Mr. Cornwell, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Bamer?
Yes.
Mr. Hollander?
Yes.
Ms. Kuchar?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
Mr. Franz doesn't get to vote. Mr. Cleary?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay. Next on our agenda is, yeah, you're free to go. Conditional use permit amendment request located at 29 East Highway N. Application number CUP 22-14. The property owner is Donald J. Twillman and Dolores M. Twillman, Revocable Living Trust. The applicant is Michelle? Is it?
No, I'm sorry, she's not here.
Okay,
tonight.
that's
She
okay.
didn't
Michelle Dorman, Diamond Communications. I was sort of wondering, but I'm not asking. The property is zoned A Agricultural District and C2 General Commercial District. The conditional use request is amending ordinance 13-102, CUP 108, to allow replacement of an existing 150-foot telecommunications tower with a 180-foot telecommunications tower located on the north side of Highway N, approximately 1,400 feet east of Highway Z near the city of Wentzville, located in Council District 2. Staff.
This, like the last request, is an amendment, so the process is a little bit different, standards are a little bit different. Again, it's focusing on the conditions themselves, and should this not be approved, it does not affect their underlying land use entitlements for the existing tower. So, there is an existing 150-foot tall tower. It's right next to a water tower. When this first came in, I said, someone's going to ask the question, I know, why can't you just locate antennas on that water tower instead of building, increasing your tower height by 30 feet? So that they've investigated that. That's not going to work for them. So they do feel like they need this height, tower increase height. I would say that when you drive by the location, your eye is drawn to that water tower that's right next to it because it's actually in front of it. It's closer to the highway than this existing telecommunications tower. And because of that addresses a lot of the visual impacts, I think, for neighbors. There are two technical considerations here. One is that the tower doesn't meet the setback requirements to the property line, and second, it doesn't meet spacing requirements of at least 1 mile from another existing tower. But I've tried to offer rationale for that in the staff memo on why I believe that it's acceptable to vary from those standards. And those standards can be varied through approval of a conditional use permit by the county council or a conditional use permit amendment by the county council.
Questions for staff? Hearing none, we'll ask the applicant to come forward.
I'm not Michelle.
You solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings from the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Tom Beneski. I work for Diamond Communications. Our address is 120 Mountain Avenue, Springfield, New Jersey.
Go ahead, sir.
So I just have I realize it's late, but I do want to just bring up our presentation very quickly to. There we go. Sorry, I was told this would move the slides. I'll do it manually here.
Put it in presentation mode, it might.
There we go. Okay. Thank you for hearing us tonight, and I do want to thank staff for working with us over this process. We are here actually tonight for AT&T. AT&T has approached us, and they want to extend the tower to accommodate their antennas. AT&T is the last carrier who is not in this area. Currently, we have Dish and Verizon on the Diamond Tower, and then T-Mobile is on the water tank. The site itself, as much as it says it's 180 feet, it's actually only a 20-foot extension onto the tower. The last 10 feet is actually the lightning rod. There's no structural capability to that lightning rod, so that the structural element is only another 20 feet on the existing 150-foot tower. AT&T's antennas would be located at the 165-foot level. So the reason AT&T wants to be here is right now this is the coverage for AT&T. Red is good, green, blue is worse. So if AT&T is able to install at the 165-foot level on our tower, it will fill in that area, particularly around ZNN highways and particularly along the coverage on the valley floors and the different areas and the high traffic areas of ZNN, and it helps them with that coverage. So that's the intent of why they want to locate here. And the intent is to use the existing structure to allow AT&T to locate on it so they do not have to build an extra 170-foot tower somewhere else. We did look at the water tank. The water tank, right now, T-Mobile's antennas are around the 145-foot level. The only place that AT&T could locate its antennas is on the rail. The rail is around 125 feet, so that's 40 feet lower than where they're asking for on our extension of the tower. They prefer to go even higher. We're trying to stick to, right now there's a federal regulation that discusses you're allowed to add 20 feet onto existing towers. It's considered a minor improvement under section 6409 between the top of the lower antennas to the bottom of the proposed antennas. And that's why we're sticking with what we're asking for, even though AT&T would like to go higher. They are getting quite a bit of coverage, but even still, they like to bridge those gaps even more. They do consider this acceptable. This is the minimum height necessary that they will accept for this site. This is an indication of signal quality. This is without the tower right now. So if you're an AT&T customer, again, blue is bad in this situation. If the tower extension is approved, you do get better coverage for AT&T customers. And again, Verizon, T-Mobile, Dish are currently on location. There is coverage right now for their customers, including 911 customers. I know you have the plan, so I don't want to go through it again unless you have very specific questions. This is just our overview, though, to show you where it is in relation to the tank as well as the gas station. The home on site is the owner's home. There is one nearby that is for sale. Again, this is just an expansion of the existing compound by another 17 feet. This is to accommodate AT&T's shelter as well as the new tower that's going in. So there will only be one tower on site. Part of the conditions is for us to extend our landscaping to the south. That's not shown on this plan as part of the conditions. As part of the building permit process, we would be adding landscaping on the southern edge. The gate would still stay where it is. This is the tower with the extension. As you can see, the top is the lightning rod. You can also see AT&T's antennas at the 165-foot level. Top is steel, is 170 feet. It does say future antennas. Those are existing antennas. They're kind of a misnomer on this. And that's all I have to say.
So the existing antenna would stay, you would just add on to that antenna, or would you take the existing one
So
down?
the existing tower that's there was built in 2014. It was a direct embed pole. That means there's no foundation. It was simply stuck in the ground. We looked at if we could reinforce that tower, if we could use that existing structure, it would be a lot easier and cheaper for us to simply bolt an extension on top. We cannot. So what we need to do is build a new tower, move everybody off it, take the other one down. That would all be done at the same time.
So with that, you'd be putting in footings then, now because of the additional weight?
There would be a foundation involved, yes, to prevent overturning. It would be a caisson foundation. It would go pretty much straight down. We've done the geotech in the area.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Hearing none, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We will now open the public hearing for CUP 22-14, which is a conditional use permit amendment request, amending CUP 21-08. Anyone wishing to speak? You solemnly swear or affirm you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or in the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My name is Arnie C., AC Dinoff, County Public Advocate, mailing address, P.O. Box 1535, O'Fallon. I would like to see a couple conditions here. Once again, I feel that this is another switch and bait of AT&T. We've heard other hearings in 2021 and 2020, especially at the corners of Missouri Highway Double D and Missouri Highway D. It's kind of the same situation. I don't feel that this is necessary. I feel that this is a want from AT&T and their vendor, their applicant. I see no compliance with FCC guidance or Missouri state statute or our county code, which mandates that there has to be an engineer study, a firm report of why the antenna cannot be co-located on Public Water District's number 2 water tower. I think locating that on the water tower, he said it could be done. I think it'd be less intrusive, try to save some of the property values. But there are some issues here. First of all, number 1 is safety. What about the fall line? Has anybody done a study if we would have a tornado or high winds, if this facility of the tower would fall, would it hit the gas station or any other buildings in the area? Looking at the map, it looks like it could be a concern. The next issue is solid fencing and landscaping needs to be put around this proposed new tower. And finally, as we all know, this is not going to be the end-all to technology. As a matter of fact, this technology is going out the door, and we're going to start relying on satellites. So a lot of these companies form local LLC limited liability companies in Missouri with the Secretary of State. They take out all those assets, and this LLC will be bankrupt. So I'm asking that this commission do as the city of O'Fallon does with all cell phone towers. They require a $100,000 bond be posted by a bank or somebody to make sure that if this technology goes bye-bye, that the LCC goes out of business, fails to remove the tower after not using it for more than 6 months, that taxpayers would not be borne the cost to remove the cell phone tower. And so I ask that there be put a bond to take this intrusive environmental ugliness in this neighborhood out. For those reasons, I think it can be commingled on the Public Water District number 2 water tower. I don't think that they've established a hardship here, that they've established or presented an engineering report that is certified and bona fide. And so I'm recommending your recommendation to the county council be no. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak regarding CUP 22-14? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Anyone have any questions for the applicant? Hearing none, we'll bring CUP 22-14 back to the commission for consideration. Is there any questions, comments, questions of staff?
Does the county have any thoughts on asking them to put up a reserve to remove this tower? Should should it not be used?
You know, I've thought about this before, and I'm kind of perplexed by communities that have such a standard, and here's why. How do you know how long to put up the bond for? Normally bonds expire. Do you make it a 20-year bond, a 50-year bond? Who's going to really bond it for that period of time? Is it the right amount? You bond it now for $100,000, but in 50 years, that might not be enough to cover it. Also, you can build a factory, which you could abandon, and we don't have to put up a bond just in case you ever need to tear down the factory, for example. So I'm not really sure why communities do those bonds, but so I think some do.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we don't have the power to require that anyway. Mr. Hollander's issue.
Yeah, it's something that's come up on, nothing like this, but it's come up on, just recently, right, on the, some of the projects that individuals do, you know, like when they're clearing land or they're doing whatever, but nothing on cell towers.
Any other questions? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to approve CUP 22-14, subject to the conditions outlined by staff.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Hollander, second. Mr. Cornwell, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Clary?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Ms. Bamer?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
Ms. Cochina?
Yes.
Mr. Hollander?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay.
Very much.
Tell Michelle we missed her.
What?
Tell Michelle that we missed her.
I will. She'll be here on the 9th.
I want to know the name of her dentist.
She's got a root canal today, so she wanted to talk.
Yeah, that's where.
Next on our agenda is rezoning request located at 7 North Star Lane. Application number is RZ 22-18. Property owner is Greg A. Renner? Did I get that correct? Yes. Okay. And Mitzi Ann Renner, applicant is Elaine Tegler? Tegler?
Very good.
Close. Current zoning is R1A, single-family residential district, 1 acre minimum lot size. Requested zoning is R1C, single-family minimum lot size. Or R1C, single-family residential district, 15,000 square foot minimum lot size. The 2030 master plan is low-density residential, 1 to 4 dwellings per acre. The area is .45 acres. The location is south of Towers Road, west of Jacob Station Road, approximately 250 feet north of the intersection of Milky Way Drive and North Star Lane. This is located in Council District 7. Staff.
This is a case where there's a specific problem that's trying to be solved through a rezoning, and that is a neighboring property, their house is too close to the rear property line. So they want to be able to, as I understand it, they want to be able to deed a 30-foot strip off the back of this lot to their neighbor's parcel, so they'll have a setback for the neighboring house. But in order to do that, the property would need to be rezoned. It just so happens that what they're proposing is very much in line with the master plan and would also solve a problem for them for their nonconformity. What I mean about their nonconformity, the existing zoning is a minimum 1 acre lot size, their whole subdivision is, but none of the lots are 1 acres. So all the lots in that subdivision are non-conforming in that regard. So this rezoning would bring their lot into conformity with the minimum lot size requirement and enable them to help their neighbor solve a problem with setback. I guess that's the way I understand it.
Any questions for staff? Hearing none, ask the applicant to come forward. You solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or in the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your names and address for the record.
Elaine Tegler, 709 Jacob Station Road, St. Charles, Missouri, 63304.
Todd Tegler, 709 Jacob Station, same.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, basically, 27 years ago, I sold number 7 North Star to Carl and Elaine Rainier. In order to do that at the time, since my house sits basically feet away from the property line or on the property line. They said you would have to get it surveyed and change the property line. We did that. Since that time, Carl has passed away, and Elaine sold
Not this Elaine,
the,
the other Elaine.
the property to their son, and then he's like, you know, new toy, he just bought this, he's looking at it, and nothing changed, the property line. So the title company who recommended, they said, you can't sell this unless you get it
Surveyed in
Right.
Lot A, or Lot
And we've got all
7
the-
would have been Lot 7A and Lot 7B.
So it was never recorded, and it was never,
So we think the title company dropped the bomb, but we do have a copy of the survey from Ray Pickett
Picket Rain Silver.
where they show it being split into Lot A and Lot B. And when my husband sold that, he was under the impression that that's the way it was going to be. And that wasn't the way it
And we're not at odds with the new owners. We've been honoring the new property line for 27 years. It just came up, it's like, oh. So Mark Price at Planning and Zoning recommended.
told us
this
the
is
steps
step
that we
one.
have to go through. And Carl and Elaine were under the same assumption that my husband was, because they put up a fence exactly on the line that the surveyors showed in the survey.
So here we are.
Adverse possession, is that right, counsel?
It's not in opposition.
Any questions for the applicant? Hearing none, thank you. Now we'll open the public hearing for RZ 22-18. Anyone wishing to speak? You solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or in the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Greg Grenier. I live at 8 North Star Lane, St. Charles. I purchased 8 North Star Lane and 7 North Star Lane from my mother this year. Previous owners were the trust of Carl and Elaine Grenier. I have a long history with the property as we moved there in 1965, and I lived there as a child from 65 to 79. My parents have owned it since 65. When we purchased 7 North Star Lane, I was curious and I went on the county website, verify all the transactions were made. I looked at the plat map and noticed that 7 North Star Lane was the same size as 8 North Star Lane. Based on what I knew about the 1995 division of that property, 7 North Star Lane should be 30 foot shorter than 8 North Star Lane. I brought this up to Todd, and that's what sort of started all these proceedings. I fully support this request as it will return land back to them that they should own. The fence has been there since 1995 along the surveyed line. Nothing will change on this property. It will still stay a vacant lot. It's a buffer between me and the rest of the subdivision, which I love. And the neighbors will not notice anything. The fence will stay in the same spot and everything. So
Okay.
I support this.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or in the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Arnie A.C. Dienoff, County Public Advocate, P.O. Box 1535, O'Fallon. I am in support of this application. It makes common sense here. I'm not exactly sure why they were made to come before the planning and zoning. I don't know if it could have been done administratively, but it seems like an awful lot of fees and obligation to go through. This will bring these two properties in compliance with the county zoning code and the 2030 County Master Land Use Plan. I recommend full approval of recommendation of the county council. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Hearing no one, we'll close the public hearing, bring this back to the commission for consideration. Any questions, comments, questions of staff? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to approve RZ 22-18. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Cornwell made the motion. Ms.
Second.
Barr made the second. Ms. Bamer?
Yes.
Mr. Clary?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwell?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Hollander?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
Ms. Kirchner?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Sorry you guys had to wait 3.5 hours for that.
So do we still have to come back on January 9th? Yes?
Well, yeah, technically you do, but,
Well, no, we want it done right, so I'll be here.
better be here.
It'll be on the
It's-
agenda.
It's a, you know,
Yeah.
it'll be like here, I think.
Thank you so much.
Robert, has been any request to take this South Point Prairie Road off the table?
No.
Okay, we'll continue on. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the November 16th, 2022 meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of approving November 16th, 2022 meeting, sign aye. Aye. Minutes are approved. Planning and zoning division update.
I don't have any update other than the meeting in January is the 9th. So because of the holidays, we have to have our packets done. Planning and zoning has to have our packets done tomorrow. So we'll be scrambling. Marisa will be preparing minutes and we'll get it done, but it'll be pushing it.
Mr. Clary, you know I will not be here January and February.
I didn't know that, but
I will
thank
not-
you for letting me know.
I will not be here in person, I'll be here virtually.
Now, did you make a motion on that, or is that actually happening?
No, that's happening. Should we tell them about Sheila?
Sheila Weiss is out on medical leave, and she's going to be gone for some time. I'm not really sure how long it's going to be, but that's another complicating factor in terms of assistance to this board as well, so.
Yeah, I'll be here.
Anything else to be considered?
Merry Christmas.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Motion's been made and second to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, sign aye. Aye. I just love doing that. Not too bad, 10:30.